21st Century Archmage. Author, Kim Gwang-soo. Chapter 1. Meeting Gandalf the Archmage. The Golden Lane was originally built as lodgings for the guards and gatekeepers of the Prague Castle. As metalworkers and alchemists came to live there during the 16th century with the development of commerce, it was formally named the Golden Lane, just as it is now. Now let's have everyone go in and freely look around. You have 1 hour. Be sure to gather here again within the time limit, shouted the guide at the distracted kids. Where else can I experience such extravagance? A man has to swim with a big fish after all. Just 2 months after beating the competition and entering Daehan High School, the school known as Korea's most prestigious institution, I boarded an airplane for the first time in my life. Though my father was a well-off fund manager and my mother was a music professor, the two of them were immensely stingy. They never failed to go on trips around the world for a month or two every year, but they were extremely cruel to their precious one and only son. During my stormy period of adolescence, when I asked them why they treated me like someone they'd picked up off the street, my parents very simply laughed at my resistance and trampled over my rage. Males must be raised with a strong hand in order to survive. Such was my father's ridiculous opinion. My mother backed him up, saying, "All the expenses you're using right now are the blood and sweat of your father and mother. Do you want to become a thankless child who carelessly wastes that blood and sweat?" It wasn't a safari wilderness simulation game or anything, yet my parents raised their only child with such severity. After that, I saw that there was no one in the world who I could trust and spent every single day studying until my nose would start bleeding. And then, the school I had chosen, Daehan High School. It was the high school that the president of the Daehan Group, the biggest business in Korea and among the top in the world, was the director. From a moment you entered your graduation, all the expenses and pocket money you needed for school life were provided by the Daehan Group. Therefore, it was said to be harder to be accepted into than Seoul University, but I was able to get into such a school. And as a benefit of that, I was currently able to enjoy a paradise-like 10 days, 11 nights school excursion in Eastern Europe. Hyuk, let's go sightsee. While I was preoccupied with my thoughts, Jung Hyun, a guy who looked as friendly as your next-door neighbor, dragged me along with his plump rump behind him. Okay, no matter how miserly my parents were, this was their one and only son's school excursion. I was generous enough to at least buy them a souvenir or two. Alchemists? Did they really live here? Upon entering the Golden Lane, I saw charming buildings and various worthwhile handicrafts through the windows. Perhaps it was because the ancestors of this place had been gold metalworkers and alchemists. The myriad kinds of ornaments I saw were more than enough to catch my attention. Wow, pretty. Looks like it's made of gold. Ho, it would suit me perfectly well if I wore it. The clear female voices I heard while sightseeing this and that with Jung Hyun. Co Yirin, the representative of Daehan High School's first years. She was the embodiment of beauty. With a height of 167 centimeters, 5'5", long black hair, big eyes, and milky porcelain skin. She was a goddess with a graceful disposition, a rare item any guy would want to call their own. Today as well, she was blooming like an exceptionally brilliant, elegant lily among the chattering weeds. Her long black hair was neatly held back with a plain-looking blue headband. Her smile was more beautiful than the moonlight in May. She was looking at a hairpin through a small window with some friends. Her ebony eyes, which matched her distinctively pale, white skin, were shining. Is there something good? More friendly with the girls than the male students due to his cheeky nature, Jung Hyun thoughtlessly dragged me straight into the girls. And then, in that moment, the girls turned their heads, and I happened to meet eyes with Yirin. Seeing me, a gentle smile came onto Co Yirin's lips. Whoa, is she smiling right now while looking at me? I was a person who had graduated from the brutal wilderness hell that baby lions experienced, right at the age when kids graduated from elementary school and began yearning for manhood. Having set aside women in order to get accepted into Daehan High School, this school was truly my dream school. Contrary to the idea that people who studied well were physically unattractive, the school had some rather charming women. The saying that accomplished children rose from humble families was entirely a thing of the past. These days, with the waters so dirted from pollution, you could only raise an accomplished child by maintaining a high-quality environment. A world that was truly heartless and specialized. That was how the world where such high-caliber children were raised was maintained. Wow, so pretty. Having squeezed in between the girls, Jung Hyun was looking at the platinum hairpin, which was embedded with many blue jewels. It's well made. The hairpin was so exquisite and vintage that my mother's collection of jewel hairpins couldn't even compare. Shaped like a long shell, the hairpin was enough to make even a guy like me desire it. Whoa! However, I exclaimed at the logical price tag. $10,000. Oh my god. The hairpin was worth a fortune of $10,000. I couldn't close my gaping mouth. It's pretty, right, Hyuk? When I was gaping like that and being surprised, I heard what must surely be an auditory hallucination at my ear. A woman's voice that was like the tinkling of a mystical silver bell was affectionately speaking my name. It was the voice of an elegant lily that had just started to bloom, CO Yirin. The being who possessed looks and intellectual beauty far more delightful than any of the members from the popular Maiden's Generation or Girls' Night had called my name. T/N, spoof of Girls' Generation and Girls' Day, popular K-pop girl groups. It's worth looking at, I guess. But I replied with a voice so apathetic that it surprised even me. Really? I think it's really pretty. As if hurt by my words, the lily looked worried. Kia, if you were to wear it, you'd be the ultimate goddess of beauty. Those who had looks and smarts like Yirin's should be nationally protected. For it to be $10,000, TCH, if I could, I want to give one to her as a present. But being the still young lion that I was, I hadn't yet been raised to the level of making money. CO Yirin, should I buy you one as a souvenir? What's with this rude voice? Near the sacred contact place where I was talking to Yirin for the first time, I heard an arrogant, cocky voice. A mean little lion had sauntered over here with two baby wolves by his side. Hwang Sung-taek, called the crown prince among the first years. He was the brat trying to dominate with his rank as the eldest son of the Osung group. He was still young in his years, yet the punk's face was full of boredom. The hyena brat was raking my lily's body with a lustful gaze. No thanks. At Hwang Sung-taek's words, CO Yirin transformed into a rose adorned with scary thorns. Leaving behind those cold words, she walked away. Just let me know anytime. I always have space for you in my generous heart. Hwang Sung-taek spat out a boorish line to the back of the leaving CO Yirin. What a waste. It had been a golden opportunity to get closer to Yirin, a strangely feeling encounter with CO Yirin on this foreign land. A nuisance had flown in before our meeting could even get started properly. Let's go, Jung-hyun. HM? Oh, okay. There was no reason to stick around Hwang Sung-taek and his cronies. Kang Hyuk, let me give you some advice. The moment I was about to leave with Jung-hyun, I heard Hwang Sung-taek's cold voice. What? There was no need for me, a 185 centimeters, 6 feet, tall Taekwondo, 4th degree black belt, and Kumdo 3rd Dan, to cower. I turned my head and looked down on the 170 centimeters, 5'7", loser Hwang Sung-taek. T/N. Kumdo is the Korean version of Kendo. CO Yirin is mine. If you want to go through school life peacefully, keep your head down. Emboldened by the two wolf pups by his side, Hwang Sung-taek was getting ahead of himself. He didn't know a single thing about me. The only things I feared in this world were my parents and our family motto of truth. With a smirk, I lightly tapped Hwang Sung-taek's shoulder. Hwang Sung-taek, do you know who you owe for living so well? At my sudden words, Hwang Sung-taek was briefly stunned. If I were to say, I'd say that it'd be the major shareholder who has a whole 10% of Osung's shares. You owe your livelihood to them, so you shouldn't live so recklessly. Hwang Sung-taek made a dumbfounded expression at my words. If you keep throwing your money around like this, your grandpappy who nicely cultivated the stockholders will... Swish. Instead of using words, I drew a line over my neck. Do your best, kiddo. I tapped Hwang Sung-taek's skimpy shoulder once again before turning around. Stop right there, you crappy piece of dog shit. But I didn't stop, since I wasn't a dog shit. Swoosh. Just then, I felt the energy of a fist flying towards my back. Bam. I instinctively whirled around and kicked out. Udo. And, seeing the foot that had stopped right in front of his chin, the little wolf pup froze without even breathing. In front of the dominating lion, the fools were trembling like dogs. I'll only warn you once. Next time you'll pay. There was no need to say much. For these guys who couldn't even be called bullies, it was a waste to use my fist. TCH. Hundreds of kids had been let loose into the Golden Lane. From all over, kids were shouting and having a good time. Jung-hyun had also somehow disappeared in the press of people. Always the devoted son. He had gone to pick out a present for his mom. Why is this alley so quiet? I had split away from the kids who were having fun with the ample pocket money they had gotten from their parents, and was looking around when I noticed a small alley. It wasn't very different from other alleys, but there were no people to be seen inside. Actually, the others were busy passing by, as if they couldn't even see the alley. Oh, the good stuff is in places like this. Those idiots. Regardless of how heartlessly my parents treated me, they were my irreplaceable father and mother. It was now time to purchase a present for them. We had to return to Korea tomorrow, so today was the last chance for shopping. Goodness, these days you can see Korean letters even in a place like this. Before entering the alley, I had seen the familiar creations of the King Sejong the Great written in large letters in front of the shops. Perhaps as a testament to how many Koreans had come here, after English and Japanese, there was a sentence written in Korean in front of the shop doors. T/N. A bit of Korean history. King Sejong invented the modern written Korean language. Before, Chinese-derived characters were used. The sentence was this: "It's cheap. Come take a look." However, no bargaining. My face flushed. I couldn't explain my feeling of embarrassment. Great wizard? Archmage? Raising my flushed face, I checked out the deserted alley and saw a small store. It had blue-tinted windows, so I couldn't look inside. But an English word, Archmage, had been written on the door. What's this? Are they the descendant of an alchemist? For some reason, my curiosity was piqued. Should I go in? Even if this place wasn't well known, there was sure to be something nice in a small store like this where people didn't frequent. That definitely had to be the case. Currently, my wallet was so light that there was more dust in there than money. Tearing. A clear bell sounded as I opened the heavy wooden door. Wah! An exclamation burst out of me on its own. It looked like a small shop you couldn't expect anything from on the outside, but it was full of handicrafts that you could tell were amazing masterpieces in one glance. From jeweled cases to earrings, necklaces, hairpins, and all sorts of accessories, there were even ceramics that clearly looked antique and baubles that looked as if nobles from the Middle Ages would have used them. Gulp! I swallowed my saliva. Jackpot! Moreover, I saw a generous-looking old man dozing. With a white beard that reached down to his belly and stylishly wearing an ivory-colored robe, he really was like the Gandalf who appeared in the movies. If this goes well, it could be frickin' awesome. I had heard through internet news stories that treasures capable of turning your life around were found in antique stores like this. A tingly feeling of expectation filled me with excitement. Cuckoo, this is going to be cake. The Czech grandpa looked friendly for sure. He was napping with a large crystal ball in front of him. Ahem. Ahem. First off, I woke the grandpa up by clearing my throat. Maybe because I had grown up in the eastern land of courtesy, I first wanted to let him know that a customer had come. But even at my throat clearing, Gandalf didn't open his eyes at all. He made a look of annoyance, as if hearing a dog bark, and continued to sleep while rubbing his ear. Is he a master? There was a saying that when a storekeeper reached the highest level, he could tell if a customer was rich or not simply from their smell. The fact that he didn't get up even though I had come in was definitely because he had accurately determined that I was poor. But I wasn't one to retreat like this. It was a certain fact that if I were to get even one of the items in this store, my parents wouldn't call me a rude brat anymore. Hello. I raised my hand and flashed off a friendly, Western-style smile. I predicted that if I didn't have money, I might be able to get something if I was friendly. In that instant, the drowsing Gandalf's eyes opened wide. And then he delivered a shocking message. What's with the rude hi? If you're in front of an adult, you should immediately lower your head. TSK, kids these days are. Coming into my ears was the all-too-familiar, perfectly spoken Korean. If not for his looks, Gandalf had such an outstanding command of an elder's Korean speech that one might believe he was a village old-timer. You don't have money, right? Following that, Gandalf unleashed a critical hit. My body stiffened in a state of shock. Under the unfamiliar skies of Eastern Europe, I had met a grandpa who was Czech in appearance only. Even I, who had nothing to fear, went under mental overload at this sudden situation. How did he know that I was Korean? And what's with that natural native accent? For the first time in my life, I experienced the feeling of being thunderstruck. No, after the remark about my parents' wilderness simulation, this was the second time. I stared at Gandalf's golden eyes with a blank look. Cuckoo, you're wondering how I knew you were Korean, right? And how I can speak Korean this well, right? Maybe he's a Western shaman? If he hadn't possessed me, then how else could he know my inner thoughts so well? I realized I was unknowingly nodding and returned to my senses. Is he seriously a mage? No way. The shop name that had been written on the sign, Archmage, flashed through my head. But no matter how I thought about it, There was no way a mage could exist in a world where tombs were made on the moon. That's right, I'm a mage. Ah, that's ridiculous. Was he saying that there were people who could read minds? This foreign shaman was boldly calling himself a magician, one that didn't just use trickery. He was definitely wrong in the head. Who are you? I gulped anxiously as I asked his identity. Though it wasn't as if I had received my formal education on fantasy, there was no sane person in this world who would seriously call themselves a mage, especially if that person looked as if they were long past their prime. Tisk TSK. Kids these days don't believe in what adults say. Do you think I would lie at an age like this? His folksy command of the language just kept flowing from his mouth. It felt as if this wasn't a shop in the Czech Republic, but in Korea. I've been possessed by a ghost. It's probably because I haven't eaten any kimchi in the past few days. No matter how many times I heard it, I just couldn't get used to Gandalf's native fluency. This is dangerous. A warning sizzled up my spine and sparked through my body. I could feel a bizarre feeling emanating from the crazy Czech man who called himself a so-called mage. And now I also noticed letters and figures of an unknown language in the shop. It occurred to me that it might be the rune language that appeared in fantasy novels. I hesitantly made my way over to the door. What, you're just going to leave? If you don't have money, I could just give it to you. At those words, my legs ignored their owner's will and stopped right there. Free. A reward quest that was worth the danger. That's right. In a global world like today, he might be able to speak a foreign language. And he might be able to read a person's intent a bit. Since he's that old, he must have learned mind reading or something. My mind suddenly scrambled to comfort itself. I flashed my signature detached smile to Gandalf, who was scanning me with his unknowable, peculiar eyes. Aha, you are truly fluent in Korean. Even as I spoke, my eyes were working hard to scan every part of my surroundings. At that age, he probably wouldn't lie. My eyes locked onto the item that would cost the most. My luck today is good. Starting with a conversation with Yirin, I had happened to stumble into a store called Archmage. The only problem was that the owner had otaku fantasy mania, but other than that, there was no problem. I'm not lying. Out of the items here, pick out the one you want the most. I'll give it to you as a present. This mage grandpa, who looked as good-natured as the Gandalf from the Lord of the Rings. At his incredible offer, my lips went from ear to ear. Kohaha, jackpot. I had no idea that something like this would happen in this tough world. You do not have to go so far, but since an adult said so, I will swallow my sense of honor and pick one. Before he went back on his words, I picked up a silver bracelet that had drawn me to it the moment I had laid eyes on it. Even if this big thing is a fake, I think it'll make some money. Oh, this is frickin' awesome. The silver bracelet was engraved with unknown patterns and letters. Glowing with a silver platinum color, it was clearly a high-class rare item. Furthermore, there were shining stones that looked like diamonds embedded inside the silver bracelet. Even if it was a fake, it looked like it would fetch quite a price. I'm strangely drawn to it. There were a number of other ornaments and items made out of gold, but I was peculiarly attracted to this silver bracelet. I could feel a shimmering energy, so faint I might be imagining it from the bracelet. Cuckoo. Right, I see. Of course. As soon as I raised the bracelet, Gandalf Gramps nodded as he said something insensible. Let's run. Now that he had picked one out, Gandalf Gramps could change his mind. With my thoughts of running away, my head went down to a 90-degree angle. Thank you for the meal. Because I had been raised under polite home discipline, I sincerely relayed my thanks. Then, I turned around. Pahaha, this is so awesome. I really like this bracelet. Just holding it gave me the feeling that I had become rich. Kerchunk. But that was as far as I went. The shop door wouldn't open no matter how hard I tried. Despite my physical strength, the door wouldn't budge, as if it were stuck shut with the strongest super glue. Oh, and then a sinister laugh. All my hair stood on end. St. Stingy. You won't tell me to give it back, right? If it became a contest of strength, Gandalf Gramps had nothing on me. But since I couldn't do something like that, I'd have to give it back. No matter how much I wanted it, I wanted to avoid getting imprisoned as a thief in a Czech jail. Since you've gotten a present, let's go. What? Surprised by Gandalf Gramps' sudden words of going, I turned my head. Ah, right there, and then I felt myself freeze again. PSSSSSS. At some point, Gandalf Gramps had raised a strange stick. An intense, blue light was pouring into the room. Why are you doing this? Isn't this free? My lips disregarded my will and trembled. Free? Of course it's free. That is if you can survive. Kuhahaha. This time, my hand started shaking. Gandalf Gramps had suddenly changed. He emanated a brilliance that was truly like that of an Archmage. Shit, what's with this ridiculous situation? At the powerful force Gandalf was exuding, I couldn't speak. I could only hear a single, friendly word by my ear. Sleep, a magic incantation that only appeared in fantasy novels. I felt my entire body getting enveloped in a wave of enormous energy. Then I tightly closed my eyes. Unable to toss aside the delusion of free, I was still gripping the silver bracelet. Ah, fuck. Utterly horrified, I coughed out a short breath and was plunged into a deep sleep. I couldn't have even imagined my very first thrilling taste of magic or the future ahead of me. Chapter 2. Hellish Magic Training. Gah! A tingly energy made my whole body prickle as if I'd been bitten by bugs. As the important component of elements like the sky, earth, fire, wind, and water, mana is the driving force that operates the world. For a long time, humans desired to make mana into their own strength. Using the boundless talent granted to them by the great god Edain, humans sought a method to use nature's power for many years. Tzzzzzzzzzz. I opened my eyes and glared at old fart Bumdaff, who had pretended to be Gandalf. It was one thing to annoy someone while they were asleep, but this old fart Bumdaff had also put me on top of a strange magic circle that's shooting sparks and was now giving a long speech. Even among kooky old men, there probably wasn't one who was this much of a nutcase. That was no damn magic. He definitely put sleeping powder on the bracelet. I couldn't believe it, even though I tried. How could magic exist within a civilization that used cutting-edge technology? If magicians truly existed, then they would have already appeared in YouTube videos. Magic puts emphasis on communicating with nature. The hard-won fruit of the ancients who worked to harness the strength of that nature was the creation of magic. Thus the magic language, or rune language, was born. Some said that magic was an amusement of man, gifted to them by the grace of a dragon. Others said that magic was a seed of evil planted in the human world by demons. But that was the ignorant manifestation of a sense of defeat by the foolish. The true root of magic was humans. The master of the world, the great god Edain, had chosen only the humans. I was one step away from being driven insane by the shocking wave of electricity that was rippling through my body, but this bumdaff was going on and on about a ridiculous magic theory. Could it be mad cow disease? How else could he write out a fantasy novel that calmly, if he wasn't somehow wrong in the head? Even in my pain, I couldn't help but be suspicious of the mad cow disease that was still prevalent in Europe. But the fertile age of magic did not last long. Addicted to the present dimension's mana, magicians of darkness opened another dimension and summoned monsters from the demon world, bringing about a terrible, ravenous ambition that would swallow the world. And thus began the long war between humans and the magicians of darkness. It could be called a proxy war between gods and devils, a divine war. Hearing old fart Bumdaff so fully immersed in emotion, as if telling a story from long ago, even I was made to listen closely despite my pain. And then, the dragon appeared. A dragon from another dimension was summoned by the great god's permission in order to preserve mankind, which had been driven to near extinction. Thus the first divine war ended. The humans, who had once been the rulers of the land, entered a long period of a magic ice age, while suffering the contempt of the dragon and other races. As if he were really that angry, Bumdaff was grinding his teeth. TSK, he's totally off his rocker. It seemed like the man had written a proper fantasy novel with his imagination. There was no way something like that could have happened in the history of the earth. Of course, Bumdaff had said that magic users had existed, but no human would have had the guts to fight a war with devils. Besides the hotshot, bluffing warriors who appeared in Greek and Roman myths, of course. That's why I became a mage. I wanted to return everyone who dared to disrupt the land that mankind should have ruled over, the demons, the various races, and even the dragon, to whence they came. For myself, the Archmage Adel. The real name of this Czech Gramps, who was incessantly spewing madness, was Adel. My fear withered away, and instead, pity filled my heart. Well, in this rough world, it's probably not too bad to become so fully crazy. If you were only half crazy, you'd probably be called a weirdo, but if you were to become perfectly batshit crazy, then no one would be able to call you out. For someone like that, even a mental hospital would pay money to reject someone like that. Kakik, I trained in magic like crazy and became an 8th Circle Mage. A stage hadn't been reached in all of human history. And that was when I was exactly 99 years old, too. TCH, this is interesting. When writing a novel, you had to write it with realistic lies like that to make it fun. Even while in electrifying pain, I could feel that I was engrossed. The feeling was like coming across an interesting work after a very long period of time. No matter how you sliced it, old fart Bumdaff Adel didn't look much older than 70. Proudly saying that he had become an Archmage at age 99. That mental world of his was admirable. Even so, it didn't seem like he was paint the walls with poop level crazy. Rather, he came across as a pure and beautiful soul who was still dreaming about a fantasy. Even Don Quixote would call him an elder brother. Now all that needs to come up is dimensional travel. Pleased, I tried my hand at predicting the next part of the story. But that was as far as I went. Even during the Lost Magic era, the Ninth Circle was a godly domain not permitted to humans. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't rise to the Ninth Circle. Bloody hell, damn it. He spat out the very familiar words. Bloody hell and damn it. Such frustration was necessary in order to proceed with the story. Even though I wanted to attain Ninth Circle magic and attempt a mana change, like a dragon, I wanted to become a handsome man through polymorph magic and have all the world's women. Now, he was suddenly spouting a very human idea. Have all the world's women. GUH. As I reeled in pain from the shock that followed his frustration, Bumdaff Adel didn't even look to see what kind of shock I was in and continued with the next part of the story. Ahem, even so, it was still worth living. Before I knew it, I became the master of Magic Tower, and every empire and kingdom was desperate to curry favor with me. Cuckoo, worldly treasures, and endless research funds poured in at the start of every year. I passed 100 years of age and was somehow able to find solace. I could restore my youth to some extent with 8th Circle magic anyways, so I was able to hit it off with the fresh chicks in no time at all. If only I hadn't met that bastard. Adel's life story was getting more exciting. I knew it was fiction, but my ears were sharply tuned in to his forceful melodrama. There was still a tinge of tingliness in my body, but I was so immersed in the story that I was able to forget about that pain. 'Twas a very windy day. When I had just finished writing a polite letter asking every kingdom to quickly send me the princesses who would become my wives, that bastard appeared. He was a truly shit-faced bastard. Even I was curious about who it was. The story was pretty watertight. I felt like if I could just return to Korea, even I could debut as a writer with this story as a base. It was a shock. A bastard who hadn't even reached his 40s challenged me to a magic duel. Me, this 8th Circle Archmage Adelnim. As if recalling that moment, lightning sizzled from Bumdaff Adel's eyes. A dragon came to have some fun? Or a devil? I tried guessing who had appeared. At first, I thought he was a silly novice and magnanimously showed him mercy. My temper is as sharp as a blade, so I normally just burn alive the little shits that charge at me. But I held back since that was a felicitous day when I had made my first step towards getting married. And maybe he's not an Archmage, but a sorcerer instead, and one that made the world quiver at that. Otherwise, there would be no reason for empires and kingdoms to send him bribes, and an old man like him wouldn't have been able to send invitations to bring forth the princesses. If he had been an honorable, good-tempered mage, he wouldn't have even dreamt of getting married at 100 years of age. But the bastard just smirked at me. Kaya, I was crazy. To have agreed to the duel without knowing that I was being baited. Though it would have been fun to listen to a story like this while eating chicken and drinking a cola, my regrettable situation didn't allow that. It was lacking by just 3%. At first, I very lightly tried to burn the bastard to death with a 3rd Circle lightning magic. But the guy dodged with an air shield, as if he'd been waiting for it. I thought to myself that he was pretty good. To be at the 4th Circle at that age, he was on the level of geniuses. For being such a ripe old gentleman, he sure commanded a rich vocabulary. It didn't sound awkward at all to me. That roused my interest a bit. So this time, I resolved myself and unleashed Burn Flare, a 5th Circle magic. Since I was serious, it was a powerful magic that could destroy a pretty good castle wall, you see? But no, that rotten, moldy son of a bitch deflected it with a fireball. I mean, does it make sense for a 5th Circle magic used by an 8th Circle mage to be blocked by a 2nd Circle magic? The moment Bumdaff asked me, I found myself shaking my head. According to my fantasy knowledge, that was impossible. I felt something was wrong then and should have stopped. But being 100 years old and still in my prime, I lacked patience. Adel was nonchalantly spouting words that were 3 or 4 times beyond just being surprising. I waited for the next part of the story with anticipation. My anger boiled over. So then, I prepared the 7th circle magic that I had spent several minutes memorizing every day just in case. Since 7th circle mages were the upper limit in all the magic towers and empire courts at the time, I thought it would end there with that. But no, that shitty, poop-faced bastard just fanned himself with his hand as if it were hot inside that 7th circle blizzard magic and refused to fall over. God, I'm so fucking mad. I could see it all in my mind's eye. To think there was a guy who would fan himself inside a 7th circle magic. Next. This situation had escalated while I had been asleep. About now, the school field trip group was probably in an uproar because of my disappearance, but I couldn't just stop here. The properly senile bumdaff Graham story was so interesting that it made my hands sweat. It's a dragon. Definitely. Making my own guesses was a great deal of fun. So rude. For a newborn calf who was probably in his 40s to block a 7th circle magic, yeah, I didn't know that the bastard had a skill that wasn't magic, but something else. What was it? You thought to yourself that it was a dragon, right? It also suddenly occurred to me at that point that it might be the dragon looking for some fun, but it wasn't. Even if it was a dragon just playing around, as an 8th circle mage, I could surely recognize that energy. It's not? Then what is it? I cursed my lack of imagination and blankly stared at Bumdaff's white beard. The only option left was to use 8th circle magic. Actually, there aren't very many 8th circle attack spells, but each and every one has enormous power capable of destroying a fair-sized castle or so. To think that I completed such magic. The Gramps was tooting his own horn, and I was once again able to confirm that there was no cure for this man. Seriously, how does the next part of the story go? Even if I died, I wanted to hear the next part. It was then, as if he knew my burning desire, Bumdaff Gramps opened his wrinkled lips again. That was when that orc penis shitface put forth a devilish proposal. The foul-mouthed Bumdaff used curses like Korean teenagers did. I was incredibly curious about the orc dingus proposal. He said that if I finished his incomplete magic circle, he would admit his defeat. Actually, not a brag, but I wasn't just the best at circle magic, but also at magic circles and theory, including alchemy. This Bumdaff Gramps showered himself with praises every time he opened his mouth. Of course you agreed, right? Having gotten used to the prickly energy digging into my body, I directly expressed my curiosity. Yes, of course I did. I knew every type of magic circle that existed at that time. Actually, if I just knew the principle, I could easily figure it out by using my head a bit. There was no magic circle that this marvelously brilliant Archmage Adel could not solve. Kuaha! Now it was perfectly clear. A person had to be defeatable to be worth fighting. It was just a guess, but fearing that he wouldn't be able to do anything with magic, Bumdaff had probably fallen for the orc dingus scheme. But the magic circle inside the bizarre cave that the rotten bastard led me to was one I had never seen before in my life. To think it was a magic circle from the lost magic era. That scoundrel. Magic era? The magic era before the Divine War. But since I had already promised, I was helplessly trapped there and had to finish the magic circle. No, that magic circle aroused my passion for research for the first time in ages. It was more than enough to excite me. Of course that was the case. For a mage who was stuck at the highest stage and unable to advance further, it was obvious that he would be more intrigued by an unsolvable magic theory than worldly matters. For a few years, I researched the magic circle to death. A good several meters in size, there were dozens of high-level rune characters engraved in the large magic circle. I interpreted the runes and figures one by one and worked towards completing the loose ends. And with such speed that those little brats couldn't have even imagined, too. Brats? It wasn't just one person. My questions grew. And then, one day, I was able to complete the magic circle. Puahaha. I perfectly analyzed and completed the magic circle from the great magic era, which even the legendary dragon wouldn't have been able to complete. What impressive tenacity. I was filled with awe for Bumdaff Adel's copious imagination, which allowed him to spout fantasies so vivid it felt as if he had truly lived it. It was enough to make me determined to become perfectly insane like that, if I were to ever go crazy. That's when the bastards appeared. York, those despicable bastards who wheedled the great Archmage Adelnim into fulfilling their own ambitions. That's when I realized that the one who had tricked me into a duel was Yasmahul, the master of the Golden Magic Tower, a secret group, and that every kingdom and empire's court mages were involved. It was a plot devised by the underling mage shits to eliminate me, a great Archmage. Kwa, laughing and then crying. This bumdaff Edelmage was sure to have a bushy bottom. He even shed tears as he agonized. 10. In Korea, people jokingly say that if you laugh and cry at the same time, your butt will get hairy. Wow, he's really good at acting. He was delivering the perfect, full package of empathy. It was so convincing that one might believe he was a real Archmage. Kohaha. But I couldn't do as the bastards wanted. If they found out about the completed magic circle, it was certain that all the magic techniques from the magic era would fall into their wicked hands. Those stupid brats, lightning shot out like lasers from his eyes. The bastards laughed. They laughed at me, who had squandered several years trapped like a fool in their scheme while under the guard of master-level knights. But I laughed back at them. They had no idea that the magic circle they had led me to was a dimensional travel magic circle. Upon hearing that it was a dimensional travel magic circle, an exclamation inadvertently burst out of me. And maybe he's really a mage? I thought he wasn't, but the foreboding feeling in my heart was blaring out a warning. And as they watched, I activated the dimensional travel magic circle, while silently clenching my teeth. Those idiots. There was no way they could figure out the magic circle, no matter how much they struggled. After the great Archmage Adelnim, had perfectly mastered the magic circle, I had modified it to only activate by my method. Adel was holding his belly while laughing delightedly. I didn't know why he looked so pitiful then. Idiot, in the end, doesn't that mean you used dimensional travel to run away? It seemed like the poor fool hadn't found a way back home yet. If this was all true, of course. But is there really a world like that? My curiosity grew and grew inside my heart. If what bumdaff Adel had said was true, then I want to go there at least once. A totally different world that Adel had agitated after becoming an Archmage. For all the Koreans who were living a painful reality, they might desire such a world. So then, you were chosen. While I had been briefly lost in thought, Adel's calm voice fell on me like a cold splash of water. Adel had somehow regained his composure and was looking at me with flashing golden eyes. What? You'll go instead of me and take revenge. Go where? Where else? Did you think I was spouting lies up till now? I'm talking about the Kalian continent, where I lived. This bad-natured bumdaff had suddenly gotten mad and was berating someone who had done nothing wrong. Why do I have to be the one to go? If someone goes, shouldn't it be Bumdal? No, Adelnim? One can only live their later years in peace if they solve their own problems and finish what they started. I wanted to get away from this crazy old man. I had a bad feeling that he would send me to that other world if he was really a bumdaff. Don't wanna. I'm gonna live comfortably now. Now that I'm nearing 200 years of age, my joints are creaky and I don't even have much of an appetite. Where are you telling your old master to go? My master? That's right, master. You accepted my proposal and even got a present. When? When did I get a present? No way. I suddenly felt something cold on my wrist. Somehow the silver bracelet had wrapped itself around my left wrist. You and I have already undergone a mana succession ritual. You're now no different from a clone of me, Adel. Kuaha. This crazy bumdaff was even laughing uproariously. Father, mother. I suddenly thought of my parents' unfriendly faces. Why I wanted to see them so much today was a mystery. If you've rested, then let's start again. Let's start what? Adel's actions were so unpredictable. What else? It's the original mana injection magic circle I developed for this day. All right, prepare yourself. I'm activating it for real now. Wait, please wait. I called out to Bumdaff, who had frighteningly raised a staff while wearing a wicked smile. This went through a safety inspection, right? Glowing with a number of opaque colors. This existence that was called a magic circle didn't seem like it had been properly made, considering Adel's condition. Dunno, some of the magic crystals were made in China, so there's no guarantee. Then here we go. Power up. Zeioning. Gayer. Without a chance to be surprised by his words that it was made in China, I was assailed by a surging energy. The last thing I remembered seeing was Bumdaff's evil face. And then I was out, all the while desperately praying to God that this was all a dream. Firebolt. I concentrated and unleashed Firebolt, a first circle attack magic, at a rabbit. Bobby Abam. But what kind of nice rabbit would let itself get hit by a lame mage's Firebolt? Surprised by the magic that hit the ground, the rabbit began to scamper away. Stop! Hey, at least leave a leg behind. Little bunny, little bunny. What I had received as weapons were a single chip dagger and some lame first circle attack magics. I idiotically chased after the rabbit, which was running through the meadow with its rump quivering behind it, as if it were being chased by a pervert. Stop. I said stop. Wah! If I couldn't catch the rabbit, I'd starve for the second day in a row. Even Lineage, a popular game these days, probably didn't torment their beginner players like this. Pant, pant. But the rabbit paid no heed to my desperate wish and ran far away. Flop. I breathed heavily as I laid down in the thickly grown wildflowers. Damn, I'm gonna go crazy. I felt like I was gonna go crazy from this absolutely unbelievable reality. While suffering after meeting a crazy mage during my cool Eastern Europe school excursion, in this moment, even though she always calculated the cost of the food, I longed for my mom's kimchi stew so much I could cry. So that's how it is. This was all planned. Right now, I was in some unknown grassland area in Iceland, Europe. It was a month since I woke up after dying from the original mana injection magic circle, which used Chinese-made magic crystals. Exhausted, I had opened my eyes to this place. For a mage to really exist, and for him to be a mage who used dimensional travel from a different world, too, everything was unbelievable. The fact that Bumdaff was an Archmage was particularly unimaginable. So he rigged an illusion magic circle in the Golden Lane and was having fun fishing in order to find only the mana-sensitive people among the tourists. While I was on the mana injection magic circle and resting, he had told me countless things. Bumdaff Edelmaster had dimensionally traveled to an unfamiliar planet. He told me that at the time, a science-based civilization had begun to develop since the entire planet had been at the peak of the Industrial Revolution. In such a world, he used magic to easily adjust and make a fortune. Back then, the Earth hadn't been so polluted and mana had been rather abundant. So, apparently, he had been able to do all sorts of things with magic. He used magic to become a medicine peddler selling a panacea, entered university to become a professor with his outstanding intellect, met Rockefeller, and even tried digging for oil with mana detection. He even told me that he had happened to meet Einstein while eating out and indirectly told him about the mana correlation theory that stated that time and space were closely related, thus leading him to publish the world's general theory of relativity and nurturing him into a great scientist. These facts couldn't be confirmed, but I had no choice but to believe them. Adel, who called himself a master. Surprisingly enough, I was able to confirm with various pieces of evidence that he had enormous riches exceeding those of Bill Gates, piled up in several places. There was an underground magic tower with dozens of floors in size not far from where I was training. And inside, treasures and all kinds of rare items I'd never seen or heard of were scattered about like rubbish. This greedy Bumdaff, just thinking about it made me angry. He had amassed a fortune in the world for about 100 years. But right now, to me, he was only a truly cruel sicko of a mage. I could forgive everything up to the magic circle he had made. I knew from my half-baked fantasy knowledge that magic started with feeling mana and accumulating it. But the special training that occurred afterwards, though I wasn't even some character in a game, he made me undergo this survival special training with one dagger and the first circle attack magic that I had just started to learn. Gruel. I'm hungry. Shit. The clouds floating past in the sky started to look like the menu items from the food stall in front of the school. Oding, kimbap, and all kinds of temperas. T/N. Oding is processed fish cake in a light broth. In Korea, food stalls like this sell cheap food in little cups. So good. If this goes on, I could starve to death. My callous master Bumdaff, whose sanity wandered to and fro. It was currently my highest priority to survive under him. I see, that's it. Hoo-hoo-hoo. I didn't think of that. While losing my sanity from hunger, I suddenly thought of a spell. Little bunny, you're dead now. Many rabbits had bred in this grassy area. While thinking of the magic that had popped into my head, I searched for a rabbit. And then, with my hand clumsily drawing out an incantation, my magic will manifested. Oh, a rabbit. Just then, I spotted a fluffy rabbit munching on grass just several meters away. As the rabbit turned to look at me, I completed the magic incantation. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Bobby A. Bam. Wow, he caught it. Fwoosh. T/N. Sound of fire. Gay. To think he's already at that stage. Kang Hyuk was the first disciple he had managed to get in years. Hiding himself with invisibility magic, Adel hovered around his disciple. In this wilderness, there were fierce predators, including black bears. In a place like this, a disaster could occur to his disciple, who had just learned first circle magic. I guess he would be talented, but to think that he would grow accustomed to magic that fast. First circle mages were more than plentiful on the Kalian continent. If you had even a little mana affinity, you could learn first circle magic. But Kang Hyuk was fundamentally different from those sloppy mages. Though he had come to be able to feel mana through the mana injection magic circle, there weren't many people who could learn first circle magic that quickly. Even he himself, Adel, who had been called a magic genius of uncommon proportions, was only really able to use mana after 3 months. But this Korean boy named Kang Hyuk had used mana breathing within 1 month to utilize mana. Not only that, but he had simply made and used a fireball even though he hadn't been taught how to. Kuahaha, I'm a genius after all. Having succeeded in hunting a rabbit by burning an area with fire, Kang Hyuk laughed heartily. A faint smile appeared on Adel's lips. He began to feel more warmth towards Kang Hyuk, who didn't give up and was doing his best, despite having been forced to become Adel's disciple. You rascal, you might think you're a genius, but starting from tomorrow, I'll make you swallow those words. Cuckoo. Adel had also learned magic like this. He had started as a combat mage rather than a theory mage, and had received the title of the Golden-Eyed Reaper Adel. He knew that there was nothing more important in magic training than being desperate. Mana didn't easily allow happiness if you didn't work to the death for it. Everything in the world was like that, but magic was even more so. Mana, the more you loved her, the more she danced for you. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. As you know, the circle has been added to your body's mana field. I know that too, you evil Archmage nymph. Sitting with my legs crossed, I shoved Master Bumdaff's words deep into my memory. Mana breathing exists even in the Kalian continent. The knights have a breathing technique exclusive to the knights. The mages have a technique for just the mages, and the summoners have one for summoners. The techniques are passed down respectively. Even I wasn't able to find out why each one is different when I was on the continent. But on the Earth, after meeting him, it became glaringly obvious to me. After becoming sure that he was a mage, I didn't ignore Master Adel's words. No matter the reason why, as long as I was sure he wouldn't release me back into the world, I needed everything I could get to survive. Plus, by nature, I was the type to cling on and see things to the end no matter what. So, I was determined to challenge this Andromeda-level, 4th dimension subject. While I was traveling in Southeast Asia after coming to this world, China was in an extreme state of chaos. It was a time when the empire had collapsed, Japan was invading China, and the nation was lying in ruins within the ranks of the Communist Party and the Kuomintang. While I was traveling to China in disguise as a British construction attendant, I met him. In a place called Zhangjiajie, I met an ascetic monk starving himself and dying while lamenting the corrupt world. He said that he could speak most foreign languages, including Korean, so there's a reason why. The mana-breathing technique you fundamentally trained for the past month is from something I learned from the ascetic monk called internal chi meditation. I then reinterpreted it and turned into a mana-breathing technique. I was able to understand, once I encountered internal chi meditation from the ascetic monk, why mages had to undergo difficult mana training, and why knights could only use Aura Blade despite possessing a lot of mana. And also, how summoners could open dimensions and summon spirits with their weak mana. This magic lesson couldn't be compared to a normal cramming session. I focused my mind in order to capture every single word. The difference lay in the Danjian. What the ascetic monk told me was, all natural energy, or mana, has no form yet still exists. It exists, but it cannot be said to be in existence. That is the true essence of natural energy. Humans randomly chose that natural energy, stored it in their Danjian, and began the accumulation of chi, or mana accumulation. T/N. Danjian is the Korean term for Dantian, the sea of chi. There are 3 main centers, the lower, middle, and upper Wikipedia. At my master's tranquil, friendly explanation, a small flame was ignited in my heart. Have I also become a mage? Just 1 month ago, I had merely been an ordinary student who knew nothing. That person was now training in unknown magic, which hadn't existed in the world before. Desiring great physical strength, knights are instinctively easily corrupted, but they accumulate mana in their lower Danjian, which can produce a big mana field, and through many generations, they found a way to manipulate mana. That is the mana-breathing technique of the knights. And for the mages who wish to powerfully draw the strength of nature within set laws rather than physical strength, they accumulated mana not in the lower dangian, but in the middle dangian or around the heart, which could store pure energy. Prioritizing communication with spirits more than mana, the summoners accumulated mana in the upper dangian, near the crown of the head, where they could most purely feel the energy diffused in nature. This became the differentiating factor between the knights, mages, and summoners. So there was such a deep reason. No matter how much I learned, there was no end to this magic. It was so fun it made my heart boil. By any chance, did the internal chi channeling you learned from the ascetic monk also include the term multi-chi channeling? How did you know that? Oh, what? So that multi-chi channeling I saw in wuxia novels was right. I didn't relish reading fantasy or wuxia novels that much, but I enjoyed reading them to cool my mind off once in a while. That imaginary world that I enjoyed on top of my bed while eating a tasty snack. That was a heavenly resting style that only those who knew of it could enjoy. But the fantasy and wuxia that I had regarded as 100% false had gone from being fiction to reality. I don't know how you know, but in the tome given to me by the ascetic monk, it was recorded as mystical multi-chi channeling. It's an amazing mana technique that couldn't be found on the Kalian continent. Really, where's the limit to this bumdaff master? He surprised me every day, but after seeing the hobby lifestyle that my bumdaff master enjoyed, I was totally amazed. There were dozens of giant TVs installed in the central hall of the underground tower. The hall was filled to the brim with cutting-edge plasma TVs over 50 inches in size. And on those TVs, broadcasts from almost every nation on the planet were noisily blaring out in their native languages. Master Bumdaff enjoyed his time crying and laughing while watching those broadcasts. As someone who didn't have much talent in languages, it was enough to garner my respect. The most pure mana in the world gathers here, with a magic tower is. As you know, over many years of industrialization, the Earth's mana has been severely polluted. That's why, compared to when I first came to the Earth, at least half of the mana has been polluted or lost. Since the Earth's mana was far lower than the Kalian continents in quality and quantity to begin with, that pollution has a huge effect on those training in magic. But since you met a good master, you can discard those worries. You just have to believe and follow me, your master. There was a dramatic phrase that a man used to coax a woman. Master Bumdaff stroked his white beard while spitting out a cliché phrase like, just believe and follow me. He was wearing an expression like that of a kindergartner who was starved for praise. Should I cry or should I laugh? Goodness. Once my master, always my master. With all my sincerity, I shall treasure master's grace deep in my heart. I said, putting a lot of emphasis on treasure. Who would have thought that I would have become a mage? Around now, I should have been living a dreamy school life while making lovey-dovey eye contact with CO Year-In, who I had just started to talk to. Bumdaff, an unwelcome guest, had appeared in such a time of my life. I had wanted to imprison him on charges of abduction, but after more than a month, I had become quite fond of him. Master Bumdaff had the slight look of a grandpa who lived encrusted to his home while farming in the countryside. Every so often, he showed a look of indescribable longing. Sometimes, I could feel an unknowable longing and loneliness in Master Bumdaff's golden eyes. If you feel that way, then I can't sit around as your master. Yes, today I opened a new hunting ground just for you. You should look forward to it. Oh, of course. Damn it, that look of longing is... The sicko master was happily spitting out a wicked laugh that didn't match his age. I resented my purity, which had led me to misjudge the man for just a moment. My family discipline is to blame for all this. My family discipline, which had absolutely no connection to our house tradition of honesty. It was the main culprit responsible for a soul, as pure as mine, being brought into this world. Chapter 3. Birth of a Great Disciple. Squeal. Squeal. Mommy. Do-do-do-dump. This is when one would use the saying, always be modest. I had been quite encouraged by my master's honeyed praise, that no one in the history of magic had risen to the second circle this fast before. But upon experiencing the bitter hell that started after I got dropped off in a rather thick forest, I started crying. As my tears flowed, I was able to realize the sage's words of Fuuk. There weren't any rabbits I could catch with magic here. Time had passed, so I was hungry, and for a moment I had lost my sanity. I'm a crazy bastard. Grah! I could feel an immense bloodlust from behind me. It was a slight exaggeration, but there was a boar the size of a bull running towards me like crazy, with its hide slightly roasted by my fireball magic. There was no use to being a second circle mage. I was made to feel with my entire body that circle awakenings and mana levels were not proportionate. Not even a dagger, but a club. Gah! Even as I ran like crazy, I tasted the feeling of being driven to insanity as I looked at the wooden club in my hand. Being a Taekwondo 4th degree black belt or a Kumdo 3 Dan was no use. With such a miserable weapon, the jet black boar and its quivering bacon were the essence of horror. I'll die like this. This full-course wilderness adventure, which I was experiencing for the first time in my life. Realizing that I was really going to die by getting hoof-stomped by a boar, I looked for a way to survive. I'm saved. Just then, perhaps by the grace of the mountain god, a huge boulder appeared in my view. I kicked the ground forcefully and flung my body on top of the boulder. Crash! Gay! At the same time that I jumped, the boar that had almost caught up to me crashed into the boulder due to inertia. Amazing! I felt an incredible vibration under my feet. If I'd been rammed by that boar, it would have been difficult to even find a shoe in the carnage. Squeal! 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 The valiant Mr. Boar was perfectly fine even after ramming into the rock. It was glaring at me with brown, bloodshot eyes as I shivered all over atop the rock. Just like I had thought of the bastard as meat, I was definitely a meal in its eyes. Isn't this too much? What kind of second circle magic is this? There were 3 parts to magic: mana, will, and manifestation. Having trained all 3 parts perfectly for the second circle magic fireball, I realized that something was wrong. Master had said that second circle magic was the beginning of a so-called magician's training. But my perfectly cast fireball wasn't enough to blacken the boar's sturdy hide and bristles. For my current second circle mana level, even if I can't kill that boar, it should have made that pig uncomfortable for at least 8 weeks. But since it got only second degree burns, arg, what in the world is Master hiding from me? Gah! The answer was clear. It was definitely the limitations of that short-term magic circle, which used Chinese-made crystals and had started with an insufficient foundation. Flop! Squeal! Squeal! Have you ever seen such a shitty bastard? While I had briefly been in thought, the boar had laid down on its belly under the 2-meter boulder. It was strongly radiating the fervent intent to gnaw and chomp on my bones. I have to find a way away. After a month of harsh training, all that was left of me were muscles and bones, so my state of nutrition couldn't even be compared to the boar's stored fat reserves. I had an ominous feeling that I would go crazy from the hunger in a day and fling myself at the boar. Wait, now that I think of it, before dropping me off here, Master had lightly mentioned something, that there was nothing you could do about the size of your mana field. It was limited to what you were destined to have. Even if I'm up to the second circle, I still don't have enough mana. Moreover, I'm also simultaneously accumulating mana in the lower, middle, and upper dungeons that are collectively called the mana field, so of course the mana level I can show is pretty low. Also, Master had said I had completed the second circle, but he hadn't told me exactly how much the second circle mana level was. That evil, pathetic, petty, sicko, old fart bumdaff. A stream of curses noisily spewed out within me. It was called multi-chi channeling, right? I had memorized Master's mana channeling method while stuck on a mana accumulation magic circle. I suddenly recalled the multi-chi channeling mantra that Master had carefully translated to Korean and had explained to me in detail. If I can channel the diffused mana collecting in my mana field, then that grilled pork bastard will... That bull-sized boar had tested the human Kang Hyuk's willpower. With my willpower blazing fiercely, I closed my eyes. Just wait a bit. I'll definitely turn you into a roast. My anger subsided as I sat down cross-legged. 1 became 2, and it was called yin and yang, and the 5 elements that compose the world matured within that yin and yang. Each of the 5 elements became distinct from one another, and as I recited the mantra in my head, my breath stilled on its own, and my breathing became infused with the energy of Mother Nature. I was mana breathing. Unbelievably enough, Master had drawn mana into the channels of my body with magic. I now filled that channel with the energy of my breathing as I opened it. This was all to give that boar, who reminded me of my malicious master, a trip to heaven. Kang Hyuk, was this kind of person. When being petty, I was incredibly petty. But when I was being generous, my heart was greater than the Pacific Ocean. I was a reckless child capable of being both a devil or an angel. That was me. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Huh. Witnessing something that was difficult to believe, despite seeing it with his own eyes, Adel forgot he was under invisibility magic and exclaimed out loud. It was a very strange feeling to watch a rare genius who easily grasped multiple concepts just by getting taught one thing. At one point in his life, Adel had been known as the greatest magic genius on the Kalian continent. He had never expected to find a genius far more outstanding than even himself in this world. Though it was true that Kang Hyuk's murky body energy had been cleansed by a magic circle's mana, it was impossible for the boy to be so outstanding with that alone. That guy, from birth, he has been a child of mana. He thought of the grand magic mana clear, which could only be used by a mage of the 7th circle or greater. Recipients of the spell would be cleansed of muddied body energy and would gain a body and mana field that could hold pure mana. And as a bonus, thanks to the cleansing of the body, your wisdom would grow, allowing you to live a smooth and easy road as a mage. But no matter how important the disciple, mages did not carelessly cast this magic. The grand magic mana clear did not use mana from nature, but with the recipient's own mana, and was impossible to use otherwise. So quite a lot of mana would be lost. In the worst-case scenario, the caster's circle could even collapse. Adel had used that grand magic on Kang Hyuk for a whole month as he slept. If it's you, you'll be able to do it. Don't lose your willpower. Kang Hyuk, my disciple. There's not much time left now. The Kalian continent, which you wanted to go to but couldn't. Even before meeting the ascetic monk, Adel had wandered the world like crazy in order to return to the Kalian continent. The dimensional travel magic circle consumed an immense amount of pure mana. Therefore, he had gone to place after place, seeking a location where pure mana gathered. While bearing his immense pain and begging forgiveness from the gods, he realized something after hearing a single sentence from the dying ascetic monk. Life and death have no boundaries. That no matter where you are, nothing will change. There was no way the Kalian continent would welcome him back anyways, and there wasn't anything left for him to do there. Therefore, the earth, which he had suffered to travel through on foot, felt like home to him. But he absolutely wanted to get his revenge on those who had made a fool out of him. No, as a mage, it was far too regrettable to let his magic die out. He wanted to go to the Kalian continent and let each and every person know of the enlightenment he had gained. He would do that through his disciple, the disciple of the golden-eyed Reaper Adel, who had challenged the 9th circle that no one except the dragon had been allowed in all of history. That's why Adel completed the dimensional travel magic circle. And through a method only he knew, he worked on creating a new method of dimensional travel. In the meantime, he set up an illusion barrier in the Golden Lane, which was reminiscent of the Kalian continent, and fished for a disciple to do the hard work for him. I wonder if that guy is doing well. That blockhead. Actually, Kang Hyuk wasn't his first disciple. About 20 years ago, there was one other guy who had happened to break through the barrier and meet him. But that bastard was close-minded and wicked. Lusting for his master's fortune while learning magic, the bastard had tried to murder him. Adel had wanted to burn him to death with a fireball, but he had been unable to kill him since the bastard had fallen to his knees and bashed his forehead on the ground in a kowtow while begging Adel to spare his life. The fact that he was the first disciple Adel had gotten on the earth made him weak. He had only learned up to 3rd circle attack magic anyways, so he wasn't much of a danger. Kang Hyuk, you'll be able to do it. Your master, only learn the theory for that mana-breathing technique, but you'll definitely be able to make it happen. The merging of your mana field. He was old, but Adel was a mage to the very marrow of his bones. By researching the internal chi channeling left to him by the ascetic monk, Adel had conceived a new mana-breathing technique. However, Adel wasn't able to use it. Because he was already an 8th circle mage, his mana field had stationed itself in the middle dangian and was far more powerful than the other fields. If he forcefully tried to merge his mana fields now, the disparity in power would make all the other mana fields explode. That's why the mana-breathing technique that Kang Hyuk was training right now was a new method that no one else had tried before. It was the beginning of a great path that even the legendary dragon had never challenged. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. I did it. I was mana-breathing as comfortably as when my mother had sung a lullaby for me as a child. With the multi-chi channeling that had been passed down through legend, as the base, the mana channeling had given me a taste of being one with nature. And with the strengthening of my will, the mana that had gathered in my lower, middle, and upper dangians was merged, though weakly. Zid, 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 zid. Having trapped me on top of the boulder, The boar had begun a drawn-out siege. It was happily sleeping with its belly carelessly left out in the open. Geez, this boar looked down on a human, the lord of all animals. In the name of Kang Hyuk, I shall punish you. As I chanted a sentence fit for a Sailor Moon girl who liked to punish evil in the name of justice, I gathered my mana in the middle dungeon where the circle was. My blazing will, my friend mana. My rage is your rage. In my name, rain down the purification of fire. I focused my mind and recited the magic incantation with a low voice, modified by the mana inside me. And my will, the pure shamanistic mana that was diffused in nature, was manifested in the world. That was how magic was used. The boar's eyes flashed open. Living while surrounded by nature, animals were sensitive to natural energy. As soon as I drew the nearby mana, the piggy bastard felt something was wrong and opened its eyes. Having enjoyed a nice rest, the boar's fatigue had flown away. Thanks to this bastard, I had been stuck wrestling mana for half a day. How pitiful I was. Get fried, you piece of crap pig. Fireball. Whoosh. As soon the incantation of fireball fell from my mouth, I felt the mana that had gathered in my heart vibrating vigorously. T/N. As a reminder, the lower dangian is in the abdomen, middle is in the heart, and upper is near the crown of the head. Bobby ABA boom. As the vibrations stopped, a huge lump of fire somehow appeared above the boar's head. Wow! Though I was the caster, I was more surprised. It was a huge lump of fire that looked to be a whopping 50 centimeters, 20 inches in diameter. It was enough to make the magic that I had cast so far look as shabby as gum stuck on the sidewalk. Baba am. Foolish. Squee a whale. Ever seen a boar get hit by lightning under a clear sky? The boar that had futilely dared to target a human as its meal was struck with divine retribution. It ran into the dark forest like a bastard struck by lightning. Crash. Squeal. And just like that, it rammed into a huge tree, leaving behind its woeful death throes. That's right. This is how it should be. Standing atop the boulder and looking at the sky, I burst out with vigorous laughter. The destructive power of a second circle magic. Moreover, it was a great achievement that I had won by merging the little mana I had. I was a rare genius sent down from the heavens. Stagger. But suddenly, the sky whirled and spun above me. Something burst out from my nose and trickled down. Damn it. My delight was short-lived. Due to the immense fatigue that crashed into my entire body, I lost consciousness right then and there. On my boar. The afterimage of the fireball roasted boar barbecue came to my mind. And then, crash. Tisk tisk. He had thought it might happen, but a problem had indeed occurred. While happily cheering atop the rock Adel had made through the spellstone edge, Kang Hyuk had fallen 2 meters onto the dirt floor and had passed out. And in that moment, Adel had canceled his invisibility magic and appeared while clicking his tongue. You stupid rascal. To be so happy after forcefully merging mana the size of an orc's tail. Ho-ho, how does it feel? The hot taste of mana exhaustion. The state of mana exhaustion, which you would experience 1 or 2 times while living as a mage. It was a state that occurred when you used mana that exceeded the amount you had. At low circles, it didn't have that much of an effect, but in the upper circles, this condition could induce a mana collapse and kill you. Your first experience with it is always that harsh. Adel didn't spare his unconscious, mana exhausted, shivering disciple a friendly explanation or advice. His eyes fell upon the boar, which was steaming as it cooked. That looks quite tasty. Cuckoo. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. That meat. I was in stabbing pain, as if I had been knocked out by someone's club. But even while half asleep within that pain, a fragrant smell burrowed into my nose, stimulating amylase and maltase secretion and waking me up. That sweet and rich smell, which could wake the dead. The very first thing I saw upon opening my eyes was the ceiling of the room I was living in and a large, plump piece of meat. Lim nom. Without even answering my cry, the person called my master was munching noisily as he ripped into a hind leg. No matter how you look at it, that's the smell of pork. It's definitely the charcoal grilled pork that I had long ago. The fact that my nose couldn't be deceived, when even a dog's could, was a well-known fact amongst the members of my household. With my hunting dog-level sense of smell, I was able to precisely judge the meat. The saying that the disciple reaps and the master sows fits this situation perfectly. The great magical achievement I had risked my life to produce was being eaten all alone by Master Bumdaff. Without permission, he was monopolizing and abusing the meat I had caught. Ma master, does that meat happen to be the meat that I'm thinking of? Munch. Oh, nom nom. I don't know. Perhaps because the gods knew my body lacked energy these days, a boar roast was presented before me. Can you believe it? I was so moved, my eyes were filled with tears, just like when I was 15 and saw the panties of the female mage I liked. Even when making a comparison, this Master Bumdaff used vulgar analogies that seriously lowered the value of a person. True to his name, Bumdaff, he was at the height of indecency. Did that boar not have any traces of having been hit by a fireball, by any chance? A fireball? I don't know about such a thing. Only that when I saw it, it had roasted to perfection. Kaya, I've never seen such a tasty fellow. How could the meat be this tender? It's killer with sorghum wine. Absolutely killer. Dry up. Without realizing it, saliva dripped from my mouth. By my estimation, I had starved for at least a day. No matter what, I had to claim ownership of this boar meat and overcome this crisis. Master, it is presumptuous of me to say so, but that boar meat is certainly the one I caught with my fireball. Please stop eating now and cede it to your disciple. This one humbly tells you that this is the best way to prevent the relationship between a master and his disciple from souring. I mixed in respectful words as I claimed what was mine. Have you got any proof? Really? And you say you made a fireball? You're saying some funny things. Don't say such things that would make an orc kick you in the side with its short legs, and just courteously beg for a piece if you're hungry. A man shouldn't lie in front of such fresh food. As expected, I was strongly rebutted by my master. How much he must have eaten while I was asleep for that bull-sized boar to reduce to the size of a dog. I know you did it, you scrupulous old fart. Then, if your disciple makes a fireball, then will you believe that my words are the truth? Fireball? All right, if you make a fireball, I'll believe you. Kuahaha, I'll show you. The magic skill of this genius. I was hungry, but with the hope of eating meat, I stood up vigorously. My blazing will, my friend, mana, my rage is your rage. In my name, rain down the purification of fire. I concentrated my will drop by drop and roused my mana. But contrary to my intent, my mana didn't move. Bam! Ow! Instead, my master's rock-like fist fell upon me. Yeesh, you lying bastard. For a person from the courteous country of the East to try and deceive his master because of some meat. Eat up. It's the meat you wanted. When he finished talking, a hind leg that clearly had master's teeth marks in it appeared before my eyes. Giving such ragged meat to me, who wants to live like a panther dominating MT Kilimanjaro, no matter how hungry I am. Thank you for the meal. Contrary to my thoughts, my hands had somehow rapidly moved to receive the meat, and an emotional smile appeared on my lips. That's right. That's how you should be. In the future, live kindly without lies like that. Being hungry isn't a sin. Master's words, I shall definitely be sure to keep them in mind. After laying down some stern discipline, Master turned around and left the room. Arg, how can I live my life without having to eat bread soaked in tears? One day, I will get back at that master who is arm in arm with the devil. My desire to win blazed furiously. On this foreign land far from home, I was able to experience with my whole body the pain of those without power or support. Munch. And I dug into the little boar meat that Master Bumdaff had left. Yummy. I held back my surging tears as I enjoyed the boar meat's hazy taste. It was just like an illusion. Even if you were to die while eating it, you wouldn't know. Nom nom. Is there any alcohol left? Having stooped so low, I vigorously justified myself. Meat was meat, and servility was servility. That was all. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Why you're sending me off? I had to confirm Master's unbelievable words. That's right. You're not progressing at all, and I see that teaching a blockhead like you is hard at this old age. Should I believe this? Is he going to tell me he's helping me and then get me employed on a deep-sea fishing ship or something? A life that you lived while believing in others was beautiful, but since he had scammed me so many times, my doubt came before my belief. Master, thank you. Actually, I did not tell you, but I was born onto this world with the tremendously important responsibility of carrying on the family line as the eldest son of the Kang family's 45th generation. Though I am fine with anything, the anxiety my parents and grandpa will feel concerning the continuation of the family line upon losing me will be considerable. If Master could possibly send me home, my bones shall become dust, and that dust will fly off to all parts of the world. Such will be the extent of my everlasting gratitude to you. I would be the world's greatest fool if I missed this chance. As I had already experienced, Master Bumdaff was fickle and his mind could change at any time. This was no time to be worrying about pride or anything like that. I just wanted to return to the embrace of Korea, the home I longed for. Why does it feel like you're implying that I imprisoned you while repressing, exploiting, and coercing you? Surely you're not resenting me, even after justly receiving a custom-made present. It was a dangerous moment. If I soured this sicko master's feelings, then I'd be at risk of getting dropped off on an uninhabited island. The situation became urgent. In the East, there's a famous saying that the master is no different from a parent. Although that wasn't so at first, having formed a master and disciple relationship with you, I shall hold dear feelings about Master, who showed me the kindness of a parent. This humble human, Kang Hyuk, is not one so shameless as to not know of his master's grace. I even pulled out dramatic words that were so far from my true thoughts that they made my insides bleed all over. Of course, that's how it should be. The heaven and the earth know how hard I work for your sake. The essence of fraud, which far surpassed my acting, he was capable of lowering the sacred names of the heaven and earth to the level of a pro-Japanese informant. T/N, lots of bad blood between Koreans and Japanese. We mean no offense. We're just the messengers. Since there's no knowing when we'll meet again after parting, your master has prepared a few presents just for you. Pre-presents. Before, I would have jumped to receive them, but because I had a very bad memory about presents, my face hardened like a stone statue. What? You don't want them? Upon seeing my stiffening expression, Master Bumdaff frowned. That's not it. How could I not want them? Only, this disciple of yours has done nothing, so always receiving things like this prickles my conscience. Master, can't we just pretend that I received them? Never in my life had I, Kang Hyuk, lived while trembling in fear with such servility. When I was in preschool, resentful of my parents' disciplining methods, I had fearlessly run away from home for 5 days and 4 nights with just 2 choco pies and 1 liter of milk. That Kang Hyuk became impossibly smaller before Bumdaff, and especially because I had learned magic, I knew very well the weight of the 8th circle. There's no need to refuse. All you have to do is receive your master's warm feelings. I really wanted to refuse those honeyed feelings. I got goosebumps all over and clenched my eyes shut. Follow me, my one and only disciple. To where? With a voice as friendly as if he were calling the next-door neighbor's dog, Master's beckoning had confirmed that my fears weren't groundless. Do you want to come when I'm being nice, or foolish? At the end of his words, a compressed scarlet fire ball the size of a head was terrifyingly manifested by his will alone. Let's be off, then. This humble disciple has been trembling in anticipation of the present infused with Master's sincere feelings from the very beginning. Since I was sure he wouldn't kill me anyway, I clenched my eyes shut. In such a situation, I knew I would only get hit if I resisted. If I was going to die, then it was probably a wise choice to die without getting hit. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Gay, what is this? Closing my eyes as tightly as if I were being taken to the slaughterhouse, I followed Master to the lowest floor of the magic tower. Possessing its own generator, the magic tower was fitted with cutting-edge technology, including an elevator. And then, a huge door opened at Master's command. Arriving in front of that door, my eyes were assailed by the sight of an enormous, disorienting magic circle, and I couldn't close my mouth. So many runes and figures I don't know. What in the world is this magic circle? Since I wasn't an upper circle mage yet, there wasn't much knowledge I needed to know from magic. I realized that after coming here, for some reason, my mind had become sharper than before. My IQ had exceeded 150 before, but I felt that my brain had gained even more lucid processing power. Now, what do you think about this present of mine? PR present. Master proudly called the magic circle a present. You dumbass. If another mage saw this, they'd be happy enough to lift me to the skies. TSK. I even have to feed you the meal that I prepared, my goodness. Master Bumdaff was looking at me as if I were the most woeful person in the world. What do you want me to do about it? The magic knowledge I possessed was incomparably humble. It was like trying to get an elementary student who had just learned arithmetic to figure out differentials and integrals. What are you doing instead of going to the center and sitting down? To the center. It was a 20-meter wide magic circle that shimmered with a golden light that was combined with all 7 colors of the rainbow. Master was telling me to go sit in the center of such a circle. And maybe he's gonna... Since I was still a layman, when it came to magic circles, I thought that maybe the magic circle in front of my eyes right now was a dimensional travel circle. Bam! You idiot! If I sent you off now through dimensional travel, you would come out as orc poop the very next day after your arrival. Orc poop, along with dog poop, orc dung happened to be the most vulgar of the many varieties of poop. Oomph. Were you an 8th circle mage as soon as you were born? Master was quick-witted, but I had recently found out that he wasn't a mind reader. Even a worm could become a mythical creature, though maybe perhaps not to the level of a dragon, if it lived for 200 years or so. It was nothing strange for a person to be able to tell what others were thinking after living for 200 years. That's why I was relieved and often spoke my mind to him. Do you think that you're strong? I am not strong, but I have enough strength to protect myself. It wasn't a lie. If it wasn't Master, then no matter where I went, I was confident that I would live without getting trodden upon. Is that so? Do you think you'll be able to win if you fight an elite troop armed with well-maintained weapons? What? Are you confident you can take a single blow from a knight who uses Aura Blade? What is he talking about? Do you think you can preserve your life while fighting a horde of orc warriors who possess twice as much physical prowess as robust humans? Master Bumdaff was wearing a cold smile that he normally didn't show. But aren't they foes who don't exist in this world? It would honestly be difficult to easily win against the opponents Master had spoken of. In particular, a knight who used Aura, a specialized mana force, was far stronger than the current me. Then can you block a bullet? What? Hey, a bullet! I had absolutely no clue what he wanted to say. I mean, besides Superman, no one in the world was capable of blocking a bullet with their bare body. I could deflect not only bullets, but large cannonballs as well. Damn, he's really an old fart super bumdaff. From the way he said it, I could tell that it definitely wasn't a lie. Just believe in me. As long as it's not a dragon, I'll make it so that everyone else will call you their elder brother. Elder brother? I'm not even a gangster or anything side. My master's earnest wish was to get me employed as a gangster. There was no way to rebuff such a stubborn old man. By all means, do as you wish. Until I was out of here, there was no freedom for me. It was a slight exaggeration, but this was the first time in my life that I longed so much for my country, South Korea, the Republic of the Free. I'm coming, Mom. No matter how I thought about it, Master's magic circle was tremendously dangerous. Master was an immensely intelligent being who had lived for over 200 years, but the way he acted wasn't much different from the preschool kids in my neighborhood. And I was the pitiful loser who was getting bullied and robbed of my money by such a preschooler's violence. Mashtiv. Before I positioned myself in the middle of the magic circle, I earnestly called my master. What? Master was picking his nose without knowing my feelings of being dragged to the slaughterhouse. He apathetically answered without even dislodging his finger. This one doesn't use Chinese-made crystals, right? Chinese-made crystals, which had made me decisively hostile to the magic circle's reliability last time. Hyuk, let me ask you one thing. Yes. Master suddenly asked a question. Do you think it's possible to live without Chinese-made goods these days? There was nothing more for me to say. I went to the middle of the magic circle and sighed deeply as I sat down cross-legged. Okay, there are sometimes nice Chinese-made goods. I tried comforting myself. But the problem was those nice goods only appeared by random chance with the same probability of finding a pearl while eating an oyster. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. I thought it would take half a year. He's an amazing kid. The totally dejected Kang Hyuk sat on top of the magic circle and assumed the mana channeling position. As he looked at Hyuk, Adel the Archmage was unable to repress his awe. Actually, even among the genius mages in the Kalian continent, it normally took them at least half a year to condense mana and barely reach first circle magic. If magic was as easy to learn as the sword, then mages and even dogs and cows would gain the title of Archmage. Working that hard was normal in magic. But surprisingly enough, in slightly less than 2 months, Adel's new disciple Kang Hyuk had been able to reach the second circle. And he had done so by merging a knight's mana field, the lower Dangian, a mage's mana field, the middle Dangian, and a summoner's mana field, the upper Dangian. I have to send him when he's risen to the third circle and the fusion of his mana has naturally occurred. But there's no time. If this mana is held back any longer, it will burst out. With a look of regret, Adel gazed at his disciple, who knew nothing and was channeling. Contrary to the Kalian continent, Adel had not been able to find materials for producing high-quality crystals. The result of that was that, unlike his calculations, the mana that had been held in the dimensional travel magic circle could not stabilize and had begun to activate. As per the law of mana restoration, the instinct of powerful mana was to return to its original state. Now everything is up to your luck. I can only pray that the great god Adain's blessing is upon you. Though it wasn't as dangerous as the dimensional travel magic circle, this forced knowledge transfer magic circle was also very dangerous. Though Hyuk's body had been cleansed through the grand magic mana clear, getting to the second circle was the limit for generating circles by forcefully injecting mana. From the third circle onwards, he would have to gain circles through enlightenments without anyone else's help. That's why people called magic a study for wise men. I will pass on all the magic theories I've comprehended in these past 200 years to you. After I do so, it's all up to you. Your life will change by as much as you are able to comprehend. Once Kang Hyuk was completely absorbed in mana breathing, Adel opened a side door. The door opened to show a magic circle 3 meters in diameter. It was the core magic circle that could impart all the magic knowledge inside Adel's head using magic. Awaken, my disciple, and let the whole world know of Adel's great disciple. The wall of the 9th circle, which he had not been able to achieve. Adel wished. He wished for his one and only disciple to become a great Archmage who would surpass him. Magic inheritance. A clear magic incantation burst from Adel's mouth as he closed his eyes. Countless mana particles slowly poured from the magic circle, each particle possessing a color of its own. The mana swirled into a whirlpool. The man at the magic circle that Kang Hyuk was sitting on also began to dance. The magic was filled with Adel's earnest wish for Hyuk to become a great Archmage. Chapter 4. This Beautiful Bastard's Love. An airplane. As soon as I opened my eyes, I saw an unfamiliar sight. In a place that looked just like the inside of an airplane, my body was reclined in a plush seat. Stupefied by the faint hum of the engine and a slight turbulence from riding the currents, I returned to consciousness right away. Mr. Hyuk, did you sleep well? Who are you? I was on a spacious bed-like seat that was immensely plushy. Without even getting a chance to regain my bearings, a strikingly beautiful blonde with long straight hair greeted me amiably while wearing a stewardess uniform. My name is Marisol. Her bright smile was similar to Jeon Ji-hyun. Even in my surprise, the sight of her skinny legs bore into my eyes. T/N. Jeon Ji-hyun is a popular Korean actress and model. My face flushed. We are scheduled to arrive in Incheon International Airport in 1 hour. What? In Incheon International Airport? Amidst the woman's friendliness, the words Incheon International Airport soared into my ears. Ho, you have slept for a whole 15 hours. 15 hours? What? When the world happened? Why am I lying here? Until my last moment of consciousness, I had been sitting on top of the huge magic circle Master had made. And then countless glimmering lights had penetrated my mind. I only remembered that a mix of unidentified things had burrowed into my mind. I hadn't been able to figure out what they had been, though. Wait, am I speaking French right now? I was able to converse to some extent in English, but I was still far from speaking French. But the woman named Marisol was definitely speaking in French, and I was skillfully answering her in French as if nothing were out of the ordinary. It was incredibly natural, as if I had learned French from birth. I have something here that I must relay to Mr. Hyuk. While I was stunned by the unbelievable things that were happening to me in succession, a white envelope was pushed onto me. Sealed with gold leaf, the envelope was light. A letter. I unsealed it and opened the envelope. A letter appeared as I had expected, but there was also a single platinum card. Runes. Surprisingly, the letter was written in runes, a language that only mages could read. How am I able to read this? While learning second circle magic, I had acquired about 300 runes. In this language, a single dot changed the meaning, and each rune had a meaning of its own, like Hanja. From what I heard from Master, at higher circles, you had to learn up to a whopping 10,000 runes. T/N. Hanja is the Korean name for Chinese characters. Like kanji, though I possessed outstanding intelligence, even I only knew 300 of them. But now, I was effortlessly able to decipher runes that I hadn't known in the past. Did I hit my head or something? Maybe this was like what often appeared in movies. A strange twist of fate? If my head wasn't messed up from being hit, how else would I be able to comprehend French and read runes? I tried using my imagination to make a guess, but it was all too unbelievable. Turning my head, I read the letter Master had written. To my beloved disciple, Hyuk. Blech. I suddenly felt a surge of nausea from the incredible first sentence. I feel such regret that the 3 months I spent together with you are already over. Even as I send you off, this master of yours already longs to see you, the one with whom he shared that brief time. Is this old man crazy? The lines were oozing with love and almost felt like a proposal. The impulse to rip the letter into pieces raged in my chest. Having met you thanks to the grace of the goddess of fate, Palin, this master of yours was truly happy. When you later raise a disciple of your own, you too will be sure to understand this tingly pleasure that I'd never before known in my 200 years of life. This sick old fart, even if I couldn't see him, I could just imagine Master Bumdaff's evil face. Thoughts of Master, a man immune to laws or strength, got me so heated up that I need to grind on a few chunks of ice before I be able to rest easily. My dear Hyuk, unfortunately, God will not permit our eternal love. I wanted to make you into a mighty mage over 10 or 20 years, but the wheel of fate has decreed that you and I will be separated like this. My hands trembled, saying something like eternal love to me, a pure, virgin soul. Grah, this perverted sea anemone, this orc cousin mage Bumdaff. Gah, T/N, sea anemones equals tentacles equals perverts. I couldn't scream because Marisol was radiating a refreshing smile from a distance away. But if I were to shout, this airplane would explode. My hostility towards Master was even greater than that time of my childhood, when the neighbor's mongrel had bitten me, making it my bitter enemy. Separated from you by the will of God, I write this letter while enduring the pain. Hyuk, my beloved disciple, while bearing the cruel capriciousness of fate, this master of yours has left you a few presents. The card you're holding in your hand right now is the only one of its kind in the world, an unlimited withdrawal card. At any bank, if you present this card, you will be able to withdraw as much money as you want. Gay, an unlimited withdrawal. An unlimited withdrawal card, which I had only heard of. Moreover, it was a ridiculous card that could be used at any bank in the world. Master, what in the world are you? I had known that he was rich, but I hadn't known that he was so insanely loaded. And the personal plane you're riding right now is the promised present I prepared for you. Use it as you wish. If there's anywhere you want to go, use it anytime. Even this airplane? Whoa. It was an immense gift from my master, someone who exceeded all imagination. Suddenly, a warm breeze blew over my Siberian, tundra-like feelings of hatred and loathing towards Master. That's right. Master isn't that bad of a person. How lonely must he have been in these 200 years for him to have kidnapped and forced a person like me into becoming his apprentice? It was only a crappy 3 months, that's all. Our family motto of honesty was written on a wooden board, and 128 specific rules were written all over the back of that board, so that only members of the family could see them. They were rules of honesty that you could only see once you were an adult. Not long ago, when my parents had been away, I was dusting our proud family motto and discovered it. One of the rules popped into my head. Those who reject what is free are hypocrites who are betraying their true feelings. Those who look at the free item and feel love for the giver deep in their hearts rather than rejecting it are the ones who possess true and honest feelings. They're the descendants of the Kang family. There was also, look at women as if they were gold. Covet thy neighbor's possessions as much as possible. Flattery is a necessity for success, so use it honestly, among others. These bits of wisdom that one had to learn while living life were all engraved behind the single word, honesty. And I was an honest man. This generous heart of mine, which was forgiving the master who had committed a permanent sin. Even an angel would kneel at the sight of me and request a teaching from me. One last thing, no matter what happens in the future, do not blame or resent this master of yours. Everything that happens is simply your master's deep love for you. Yes, sir. If master had been by my side, I could have even forgotten the misunderstandings that had accumulated so far and embraced him warmly. The human Kang Hyuk was not such a petty Korean man. The next time I see him, I should ask him to give me his inheritance inventory. It's an upright mage's custom for the sole disciple to take responsibility for the treasures left behind by the master. I tried holding it back, but laughter slipped past my lips and trickled out. There was no one else in the world who owned a personal airplane at this age, as well as an unlimited withdrawal card. So my dream is becoming reality at last. My eternal desire, paradise. The utopia of paradise that appeared in myths had been my dream ever since I was young. The glutted and plush Shangri-La, where I would live with those I loved. In this day and age, if you had money, nothing was impossible. Just then, I strongly felt that the goddess from the other world, the goddess of fate, Palin, was on my side. I should raise a glass in her name sometime. Cuckoo. I lay comfortably in my seat while engraving the last of Master's love deep into my soul. Lady Marisol. Yes, Mr. Hyuk. At my call, the golden-haired beauty approached, a smile blossoming on her lips like a blooming marigold. I involuntarily gulped at the sight of her. As it turns out, this airplane is mine. But what are its specs? Seeing as it's quite big, it seems worth using. It wasn't just at the level of being worth using. Though I didn't know what kind of leather they were made of, the brown seats inside the airplane were immensely soft. I could also see that the plane was filled with cutting-edge equipment and had luxurious interior design. Far away, I could even see huge sofas and a bar where you could drink alcohol, so it didn't seem like the plane was small at all. It is an A380 specially manufactured by Airbus. Marisol nonchalantly stated the name of the airplane while smiling broadly. Cough, cough, cough. The cold, fresh juice that Marisol had handed me caught in my throat, just like that. A380. That terrifying jumbo airliner that can seat a maximum of 800 people. A unique method of transportation created by humans. A single one cost $400 million. My jaw dropped, and I blankly thought of Master. My Master. This beautiful bastard's love came surging deep into my heart. Somehow, it seemed like I had come to truly love Master. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. An A380 is suddenly landing? It hasn't formally landed in our airport before, so what airline is it? I don't know, I heard it wasn't an airline, but a personal plane. What? An A380 as a personal plane? In the control tower at the gateway at the South Korean Incheon International Airport, the staff were kicked into a flurry of commotion due to the A380 that had suddenly flown in. Not long ago, Airbus Next Generation airliner had landed once in Incheon Airport for a test flight. Capable of carrying up to 800 passengers and flying nonstop around the world, the airliner that was called a moving five-star hotel was currently making an unscheduled landing. But they had been informed that the plane was for personal use. The VIP airport passage that only high-ranking public dignitaries like presidents, foreign generals, or chiefs of the Constitutional Court were permitted to use was reserved in advance. It's here. Ryuumble. The 10 women of the airport's protocol team in charge of the VIP lounge were stiff with tension, watching the huge airplane moving down runway 9. They were truly curious about the identity of the person who was arriving in a $400 million personal plane while getting VIP treatment. Thud, thud. The airplane was moored and the sound of an unknown person's footsteps slowly drew closer. As the sound of the footsteps grew near, the dolled-up women in the protocol team were able to lay their curious eyes on the man who slowly appeared. Ah, oh my. Though they knew it was certainly a gaffe, low cries burst out from their lips. Haha, hello there. Having imagined that it would be Arabian royalty rotting in piles of money, or at least a famous foreign celebrity, the protocol team felt themselves freeze the moment they saw the robust Korean-speaking young man, or rather, the student who still showed signs of being a child. A high school student whose face they could now clearly see was getting off after riding the giant airliner, the A370, which even the wealthiest Korean couldn't use as a personal plane. Welcome. Wearing frozen business faces, the protocol team lightly bowed their heads towards the student who was raising his hand and smiling broadly as if something very good had happened. The male student's flustered voice rang loudly above their heads. Where do I go for the customs inspection? As if he didn't even know how to use the VIP lounge, the clumsy high schooler was scratching his head. The faces of the bowing staff members went slightly stiff with shock. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. CH chunk. It was real. Having kindly reissued my passport, Master Bumdaff had made it so that I could safely return to Korea again. I had come out of the flashy and elegant VIP lounge, which I was seeing for the first time in my life, but I actually didn't have a personal car. As such, surrounded by the protocol team that followed me even outside the lounge, I went to an ATM. And then the withdrawal. That zero was a zero. The card's password was 1111, a number befitting my simple master, and as soon as I put in the card, I saw the unlimited number 0. At first I thought it was a fake card that didn't have any money, but once I made a withdrawal, 100 or so $10 bills came spewing out without a single hitch. My jaws dropped at the sight of the lump sum, an amount I had never held before in my life. Yeses, kuahaha. With the realization of the dream I had imagined, my heart was pounding so much I thought it would burst. Wearing the brand-name jeans and white shirt that Marisol had prepared for me, I was also decked out in some fitting sunglasses and several accessories. I was directly able to get a taste of the luxury life I had only heard of. Let's go. To home. Before I knew it, the seasons had changed to the end of summer. While under the cool air-conditioned breeze, I grandly walked out of the airport. And then, the blinding August sunlight. The rays of hope that signaled the end of suffering and the beginning of happiness were energetically shining on me. Surely they haven't sold my family register because I died or something, right? I had arrived at my house via a limousine taxi. I was curious about how my parents, who raised their son as if playing a safari wilderness simulation game, had fared while I was gone. I was truly curious about whether they had flown all the way to the Czech Republic in tears because their one and only son had disappeared, or if they were comfortably living their daily lives while believing that I was alive and would return. Thanks to my well-off father and mother, we were living in a fairly nice apartment in the Gangnam district. T/N. Gangnam is a district in Seoul. It's known for stinking rich folks who want to send their kids to really nice schools. App 707, the current date and time was Saturday, 5 p.m. My parents would be home at this time. Ding dong. Taking a deep breath, I pressed the doorbell, but I didn't hear any response. Did they go somewhere? They weren't the kind of parents who would throw away their lives because their son was gone. I don't even have a key. The door was double locked with an electronic lock and a key. Who is it? Just then, I heard my mom's voice from within. Though it was a familiar sound, it didn't have any energy in it. Mom! Suddenly, a part of my chest tightened. Their son had quickly grown up while eating, sleeping, and pissing well. From a voice I heard, I was able to grasp how difficult this time had been for them because of me, the son they had lost while on a school field trip. Who's this? Following my mother, I heard my father's heavy voice. They should be able to see everything through the front door camera. So what are they doing? Hyuk. And shortly afterwards, having seen me through the front door camera as I had expected, I heard my mom's agitated surprise from the speaker. I'm home. With a voice that was as energetic as ever, I announced that I was home. It was something I said whenever I came back from school. The door opened with a click. Father, mother, this son of yours has returned. Thinking that my parents might possibly be worried, I went inside as if nothing were wrong. My parents were dazedly standing in the entryway. They were blankly staring at me with faces of disbelief. TCH, why had they grown so old? The several wrinkles that had lined my mom's eyes in the few months that I hadn't seen them, and the grayish-white hairs on my father's head were glaringly obvious. My heart stung as something hot swelled in my eyes. Son, you're late? Ho-ho. Was the field trip fun? Yes. It was a very, very valuable trip. My mother called me her son like normal as she greeted me. With rough strokes, my mom tousled my hair, which had grown longer than hers. You've grown a lot while you were away, haven't you? What were you doing until now that you couldn't even contact us? Though they knew that I had disappeared on the school excursion, they treated me as if I had just gone somewhere far away to play. I tried running away for the first time in a while. If not for the school field trip, when else could I have tried traveling in Europe? Or in a way, I couldn't tell them the truth that I had learned magic under the crazy Archmage Master Bumdaff. If I told them the truth, then they might even send me to a mental hospital. I'm joking. I drank something that a strange grandpa gave me in the Golden Lane. And when I opened my eyes, I was in some village in the European countryside. I helped the bad-tempered, kidnapping old man with some work over there before coming back. So that's how it is. So there was worth in your father raising you with a strong hand after all. Father nodded as he said that it was thanks to him. Well, that's true. My father had a point. If not for the parent who practiced 101 hidden rules in order to make his son strong, I might have committed suicide under Master Bumdaff's tyranny long ago. Son, thank you for coming back. My mom hugged me lightly. Rather, she was shedding tears while in my embrace. Seriously, the stinging in my heart was enough to almost make me shed painful tears. If not for the next thing that my mom spoke in my ear while in my embrace, I would have certainly burst into tears while hugging her. Surely you didn't forget to buy Mom a present, right? While in the midst of our unexpected, touching, and emotional family reunion, suddenly a gust colder than the air conditioner swept right past my heart. Oh, those sunglasses are nice. Is it a Ferragamo? Oh my, it really is? As expected of our son. No matter how busy he is, he won't forget presents for us. Ho ho. Haha. This is all due to raising our child strictly, is it not? That was how my brief relationship with the goods that Marisol had given me ended. The whole bundle of gifts that she had passed to me were steadily divvied up in my father and mom's hands. Really, like that, I was able to return to my house for the first time in 3 months. I had become both the world's greatest millionaire and a mage. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. La 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 la. Never had I dreamt that coming to school would make me so happy. Thanks to Master Bumdaff, the things I treasured in the world had truly become many. Have a good day, young master. Driver Kim, please come so that I'm not late to cram school. Daehan, the most prestigious private high school in South Korea. In front of the huge gate that was modeled after the Dongnaemun Gate, the well-off children were busy getting out of their cars, as always. T/N, the Dongnaemun Gate, also called the Independence Gate, is a huge stone gate in Seoul. Also, most people in Korea go to school by bus or subway, so coming to school in a car is a sign of wealth. Those brats, for them to go around riding personal cars, they don't know what wonderful exercise walking is. Since I possessed the biggest personal vehicle in the world, I didn't feel any of my past jealousy concerning coming to school in a personal car. Oh, I'm finally back. School. Kang Hyuk have come. I raised my arms like a triumphant general and went through the gates. Since I wasn't a morning person, at one point in my life, school had been a testing ground of my endurance. Oh, that guy, isn't that him? Yeah, that's the first year who appeared in the school newspaper. During class, Ms. Wong was saying that. You know, that one of her students might be getting dragged around by a crazy gypsy and begging on the European streets. Goodness, having grown sharper with the accumulation of mana, my ears picked up the girl's gossip. My body went stiff while still positioned with my arms raised. Damn it, gypsy? Begging. The day after my arrival home and the warm, yet cold family reunion, I had gone to the school with my parents. There, I had told the principal, who hastened to hear my explanation, as well as Ms. Wong what I'd told my parents. The sad and tragic story about how I consumed a free drink given to me by an old man and how I'd been dragged around. But for some reason, the story of my life's troubling ordeal had degenerated into begging. Why the hell is it such a vulgar thing like begging? Arg, my despicable homeroom teacher, who had thanked me for coming back while even crying at the time. My heart had tightened at the thought that there was still goodness in this heartless world. But what had returned was betrayal. Ms. Wong, to think that you dared to stab a dagger into my heart. Ms. Wong was a 35-year-old spinster who taught English. Because she was a female teacher who always lamented about being an old maid that couldn't get married, she was called the dreaded Snow White. With that dreaded mouth of hers that made millions cringe, she had turned me into a pitiful and shabby beggar boy. I won't let this slide. Someday I will have my revenge. I swore vengeance with a blazing heart, for the sin of having carelessly opened her mouth, and also for spreading false information. I would make her shit blood while feeling the volcanic rage of Kang Hyuk, the magic genius. Yeah, but why did the recipe for the magic reagent that makes you shit blood pop into my head just now? After getting freed from Master Bumdaff's oppression and returning to my house, every night I trained like crazy in my dreams. Runes and magic spells I hadn't even learned, as well as countless basic magic theories and alchemy, upper circle spells, and so on. If I thought of one thing, I was reminded of associated spells or magic. It's because my body doesn't have any energy. I should boil and eat some 100-year-old wild ginseng. The uses for my overflowing money were endless. Kang Hyuk. While I was swearing my revenge as I walked to the classroom, I heard a sweet and gentle voice. My head turned towards the one who had called my name without reserve. Co Yirin. The lily flower was wearing a navy blue, checkered uniform skirt. A small blue ribbon necktie was attached to her white blouse. Her beautiful skin, which looked whiter than her blouse, was radiantly blossoming under the morning sun. You're alive? As if seeing me as a dead ghost despite looking at me with her own eyes, Co Yirin asked for confirmation. Of course I am. I just randomly went on a vacation in Europe for a bit. Without cowering, I coolly lied about having gone on a vacation in front of Yirin. That's a relief. Co Yirin nodded as she showed eyes of happiness. What? Is she worrying about me right now? I hadn't even seen my parents look at me with such doting eyes before. The angel CEO Yirin had presented me with such a precious gift so early in the morning. If someone just put wings on me, I could fly right into the sky. Let's go in. Jung Hyun is really waiting for you. Hyuk. Huh? Yeah, okay. We should go in. That rascal. To think that he yearns so dearly for this elder brother of his. Huh. That's why you've got to treat a person well while they're still around. I walked through the hallway towards the classroom with a grinning Yirin. Hyuk. Just then, the angel cautiously called my name. Ichinenji. She must have been super worried. What? I warmly gazed at Yirin's red lips as her eyes sparkled. I was filled with boundless anticipation at what kind of happiness those sexy and cute lips would deliver this time. Was begging fun? Gay. Yirin's finishing blow. An intense groan rang ruthlessly through my throat. Ms. Wong. I won't forgive you. Thus, like Jack and the Beanstalk, the seed of vengeance rapidly grew towards the sky. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Hyuk. When I entered the classroom, Jung Hyun sprang up and energetically called my name, as if he were a husband calling his wife. At the same time, all the kids in the classroom turned to look at me. Hi, everyone. T/N. He says this in English. A virulent rumor that I had begged in Europe had circulated, but I was blameless. The rascals, why were they surprised? Because I had lived my own way without cowering, I was able to grin even while in front of their surprised and confused looks. Kiki, there was a rumor that you went around begging while getting dragged by a gypsy, but looks like you managed to come back alive. Era, would you look at that? There was a bastard sitting askew on his chair as he enthusiastically yapped me a welcome. It was Hwang Sung-taek, the mega brat who lived on his grandpappy's fortune. Haha, rumors are just rumors. Isn't someone who believes such a ridiculous false rumor just an idiot? I laughed stiffly as I sought agreement from everyone else. But not a single person nodded in response to my words. Even Jung Hyun avoided my eyes, even though he was the blood of my blood and a close enough friend that I would share a black bean bun with him. Would you look at these guys? Should I give him a taste of fireball magic? This misunderstanding could all be quickly resolved with a single spell. But for some reason, I didn't want to. Unlike before, my pockets were lined. With the enlargement of my wallet, my generosity had also become as big as the earth. You dickhead. How are you going to pay for getting us locked up in the hotel until the very last day? If you're an idiot, you should have slept nicely in the car. Why the hell did a penniless bastard like you even go sightseeing? Huh. Fwoosh. Hwang Sung-taek unleashed a two-part assault that made my insides blaze. A fiery smile appeared on my quivering lips. I do feel sorry about that point, but I don't feel sorry at all to just one person. I did feel sorry that I had probably ruined their school field trip. It hadn't been intentional, but the result was that it had definitely negatively impacted everyone. But to just one bastard, no to the two faithful mongrels beside him as well, I didn't feel even a whit of remorse. Hwang Sung-taek, beware the sky. Don't get hit by a bolt out of the blue while walking around. A bolt out of the blue? Pahaha. The threat you come up with is lightning? You immature little shit. Unlike me, Hwang Sung-taek had never given serious thought to unexpected lightning strikes. You're dead, this dirty-mouthed bastard. As soon as I thought of a bolt out of the blue, the magic spell for lightning, the ultimate third circle attack magic, naturally came to mind. I firmly resolved to give him a lightning bolt as my sincere school excursion gift. Oh, Hyuk, you were greeting the kids. A woman's awkward laugh came ringing into the classroom, which had gone quiet due to my savage conversation with Hwang Sung-taek. Ms. Wang Sun-nayo. Disguised in makeup, Ms. Wang the spinster came in through the open classroom door. Having debased me into a mere beggar, Ms. Wang wore a pretentious smile as she gestured at me as if we were friends. I have finished saying my greetings. I will go sit in my seat. There really wasn't a need to say more. I see. If I control the strength and use poison magic, she should be able to shit blood. As I walked to my seat, 21 different ways to make her shit blood happen to pop into my head. I didn't know why that was stored in my mind, but it was certainly very useful knowledge. Chapter 5, Date with Yirin. What is the area between the two curves y equals x caret 2 dash 3x and y equals x caret 2 plus x? 8/3. Huh. Since when has integration of multiple polynomials been this easy? As befitting of a nation's top high school, the first years had to learn second-year math in class. Math wasn't hard for me in the first place, but now the formulas were drawn out lickety-split in my mind, and I was able to reach the answer in 1 second. Was I always this smart? No matter how much of a genius I was, I shouldn't be able to solve an integration of multiple polynomials question in 1 second. When the world is inside my mind. It wasn't just math. During English class, which was taught in English, and in physics, which went considerably into specifics, I was made to discover and be surprised by my own intelligence. I was able to tell that the English teacher's drawling accent wasn't the way American white people spoke, but the characteristic accent of black people, and I even discovered some enormous errors in the formulas of my physics textbook. Then, math had followed the English and physics classes. Unlike the kids who were moving their pens to studiously solve the problem, I had come to the answer in 1 second through mental arithmetic. After solving it, my eyes settled on the teacher who was lovingly gazing at the kids who were solving the problem. What a pretty teacher. Hoo. Wasn't it said that forbidden love with a beautiful female teacher was among the romantic fantasies of a man? Lee Ji-hae, the math teacher, possessed the best looks in the school. No, her beauty was on the level of the top celebrities in the nation. Her outfit, a sky blue blouse over the pencil skirt she liked to wear, refreshed those who saw her. Moreover, her slim fingers holding a piece of chalk and her raised white collar matched all too well with her intelligent face. Kaya, if only I were just 3 years older. If I had been at least a college student, Ms. Lee Ji-hae would have been well worth trying for with my life on the line. Hyuk, is the pace okay? While I was enjoying some hazy imaginations as I stared at my teacher, Ms. Lee Ji-hae had gotten right in front of me and worriedly asked me a question. Of course, listening to your thoughtful lesson makes every problem no problem at all. Huh. Oh. There was a rumor that you had a hard time during the school excursion, but I see that was all a lie. Gleaming white teeth were revealed the moment she flashed a smile. The instant she approached, the beguiling fragrance of a woman ignited a fire in my spirit. There's a famous saying that the young invite hardship, after all. The recent Europe trip was a fruitful experience that gave me many lessons and gifts. Lessons and gifts? That's right. There's something to learn even in times of hardship. Our Hyuk grew a lot while he was away, didn't he? At the happiness of having found a student to be proud of, Ms. Lee Ji-hae brushed my hair with her slender hands. I thought that if I were making an appearance on TV is the vehicle of love later in my life, I would definitely seek Ms. Lee Ji-hae. T/N. That's an actual Korean show that ran from 1993 to 2010. There's no official translation for the name. One of the programs was to find someone who was important to you in your past and share your feelings. But that little shit, why is he glaring so much? While I was enjoying Ms. Lee Ji-hae's soul-calming warm hand, Hwang Sung-taek and his cronies were glowering at me as if something didn't sit well with them. I ought to trash the brats with magic arrow. But now wasn't the time. A little later, after I reached the third circle, I would give them a hot-rated R experience that they wouldn't forget for the rest of their lives. Wreath the Rying. It's already over. With the noisy ringing of the fourth period ending bell, Ms. Lee Ji-hae returned to her lectern. Stunt. Bow. Thank you very much. All right, have a good lunch. Leaving behind a loving smile at the very end, the teacher left the room hugging the attendance log and her teaching materials with her delicate arms. My regrettable crush ended with that. Jung-hyun, let's go. Yeah. As always, we left the classroom in a hurry. It was the cafeteria of Daehan, a high school with the best facilities, but being late would only leave us standing in line. What was the spell for haste magic again? I thought of haste magic while running toward the cafeteria, and with the thought, the magic incantation naturally came to mind. Mana, I have to hurry and expand my circle. Because of the squirming magic knowledge in my head, the still insufficient circle and mana felt like enemies to me. Asterisk. Father, mother, are you not going on a vacation abroad this year? A vacation? I want to go, but the stock values are turbulent these days, you see. It's such a shame. Why is the stock market like this when I'm on sabbatical, really? As I ate my mom's spicy and refreshing kimchi stew, I lightly brought up the topic of an overseas vacation. I'll be able to train magic without worries only if my parents are away. I was in a hurry due to the countless pieces of magic knowledge that popped out pell-mell in my mind. But because of my parents, who frequently opened my door unannounced, coming in to check for wholesome computer use, I couldn't do any magic training. Honey, please quit being a fund manager now. You've earned enough up till now, and I also have a stable income. So please stop the headache-inducing work and try finding another job. My mother was as sharp as a knife to her son, but to my father, she was an incredibly kind wife and friend. I wanna, but we still have to send Hyuk to college and father. Haha, your Kilimanjaro panther has grown up already. Please stop worrying about me and enjoy your life together. There's a saying like this: you who worked hard to raise your child, enjoy your middle years. Then shall we do that? After looking at only graphs for a year, my body and mind are getting tired. My father liked to eat and play as much as I did. Our combined encouragement roused his interest. Then where shall we go for a vacation this time, since we traveled around the Americas last year? Ever the one to follow her husband's wishes, as soon as my father's words dropped from his mouth, Mother was frighteningly quick to start planning the vacation. Nice, Sue. A cheer burst out inside of me. Now I had a hammer in the nail. How about a 6-week cruise? I heard that a luxury 7-star cruise ship touring the entire world, including Europe and Africa, is docking in Busan Harbor soon. Since you're going on a vacation, you might as well make it a memory you won't ever forget. Especially because father and mother have maintained the youth and love of 20-year-old newlyweds. This son of yours is actively recommending this cruise. If I was going to send them off, then it was best to send them far away, and on an extensive cruise, they couldn't just come back from whenever they wanted, at that. Oh, now that you bring it up, going on a cruise is an option, isn't it? For now, Mother made an expression of agreement. But I heard that the cost per person exceeds several $1,000s. Isn't that too excessive for us? He was tempted, but because he was aging, the poor, middle-aged head of the Lion Pride couldn't help but worry. Please go. This son of yours will make it happen. What? You will, Hyuk? As soon as I said it, my parents were extremely surprised. They didn't know that the only unlimited withdrawal card in the world was in the hands of their son, a man as wealthy as an emperor. Here are the tickets. I've arranged for a suite in your names. There, you'll be able to see the broad ocean anytime you want. The departure date is Saturday of next week. I pushed the envelope holding the gilded tickets towards them. Having overcome their confusion, my parents were looking at me with serious expressions on their faces. Hyuk, my father said my name quietly. I hope it goes over well. My father's low voice was worrisome. It was reasonable, to be honest. What kind of parent would nonchalantly accept vacation tickets that cost thousands, no, $10,000 from their fledgling son? I gulped nervously. If they asked me to be honest about where I'd gotten the money, then I wouldn't have anything to say. How could I say that I had become the disciple of a crazy mage, Bumdaff, who'd come here via dimensional travel, and that I had been gifted with an immense fortune? But my father's next words dispelled my worries. You don't have any pocket money for us? Father, I sighed deeply as I looked at our family motto of truth, which was displayed for all to see on the living room wall. I was reminded of one of the additional lines that were related to truth. When you take it all, and be extremely thankful to the giver. That is truly a reflection of her true feelings. And my parents were all too truthful, even to their one and only son. You won the lotto, right? Since he begged in Europe, might it not be Super Bowl or something like that? T/N. Hyuk's mom mistakenly thinks that the Super Bowl is a European lottery. Obviously, it is not. Lotto is a South Korean lottery. As expected of our son. Oh, Hyuk, give us lots. It was amazing that they could even come up with such things. Even if they were to meet Master Bumdaff, they probably wouldn't even be fazed. They were already busy checking the tickets I had handed over as they cheered happily. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Thank you, Big Sis Marisol. The aircraft crew, including Big Sis Marisol, was staying in Korea just because of me. When I got off the plane, she had given me a business card telling me to give her a call anytime if there was anything I needed. Magician Group? That name is so like Master. Even Master couldn't have avoided adjusting to this lawful world. He had told me that his immeasurable assets were cached all over the place in some tax-free banks called Archipelago in the name of the Magician Group. And today, I had gotten word from Big Sis Marisol that my parents had safely boarded the cruise ship. I also found out that the world's top luxury cruise ship currently docked in Busan was merely a part of Master's overflowing assets. My life was changed in 3 months. Cuckoo. This is totally movie material. Besides the fact that I'd been to hell and back, in just 3 months, I'd become one of only 2 mages in the world, as well as an unheard of multi-billionaire. Paradise. For that grand goal, dreams existed to become true one day. I dreamt my own dream, a kingdom just for me, which I would live with the woman I loved while wielding absolute authority like a medieval king. That was my dream, and it would definitely come true. Shall I try moving around a bit? Though I was apart from Master Bumdaff, I didn't neglect my mana channeling for even a single day. Since I had become a mage, I would become an Archmage at least as great as Master. Enlightenment? What could be the enlightenment that breaks the third circle wall? I sat cross-legged in the middle of the living room and immersed myself in contemplation about third circle magic. One would only be called a mage once they reached the third circle, and at this stage one could use useful magic for daily life, as well as diverse and powerful attack magic. When I thought about the third circle, all the incantations related to the third circle naturally popped into my mind. I'll raise my circle first. Money was like poison if picked up by those without ambition or ability. Magic incantations were exactly the same to mages who couldn't raise their circle. Magic really did exist. I would become not a mage of dreams, but a true mage in the flesh. TCH, was it a mistake to send them? The very next day, after deciding to go, my father handed in his resignation letter, and the two of them finished preparing for the vacation. They boarded the cruise ship with hardly a word of farewell and went on their vacation. A week had already passed since then. I want to eat the food Mom makes. HNNG. Learning magic was good, but food was important to me as well. For the past few days, I had managed thanks to the side dishes my mother had prepared, but I was getting tired of them and wanted to eat my rice with warm soup instead. But why doesn't this bracelet come off? I thought, looking at the silver bracelet that had been Master's bait. A link that connects time to time and space to space. There was a sentence like that written in ancient runes on the outside. Time is time and space is space, but why is it parasitizing my arm? Since it was an ominous object given to me by Master, I had tried cutting it with a saw and taking it off with soap, but the silver bracelet wouldn't budge, as if it had become a part of my arm. It was extremely worrisome. Surely nothing will happen, right? It's just a bracelet. When I looked at the bracelet, some kind of figure came to my mind. But the figure was too difficult for me to understand at my level, so I tried to ignore it. TCH, it's Saturday, but there's nowhere to go, and that rascal Jung Hyun went on a vacation with his parents. Daeon High School's teachers worked hard for 5 days a week. As a result, Saturday was a rest day, just like Sunday. But the problem was that I had nothing to do besides studying magic, and I had already acquired most of the knowledge related to the second circle. Because my unexpanded circle was already filled up with mana, I couldn't accumulate any more mana. Should I give her a call? Yesterday, there was a sudden downpour in the afternoon, even though it was September. Since I hadn't brought an umbrella and didn't have a driver waiting for me outside like the other kids did, I was blankly staring at the falling rain. As the raindrops splashed onto the schoolyard, I saw something that I hadn't known of at all before. Each trivial raindrop held clear and pure energy. Like the performance of an immense orchestra, the raindrops were performing with mana. Pitter, patter, pit-pat. While looking at the falling rain, the mana inside of me was also joyful and danced about. Just then, she appeared. It's refreshing, right? I like the rain. The girl, endlessly staring at the falling rain by my side with her black eyes, was Co Yirin. A clear fragrance that reminded me of yellow autumn chrysanthemums rode the misty air and burrowed into my nose. Once in a while, I like to get rained on a bit. Whoosh! Without even asking for my opinion, Co Yirin unfurled an umbrella that was as blue as the sky. Even though we were inside the school, she surreally took my arm. Caught up by her bold action, I was able to walk down the school road under the pouring rain. The rain fell on both of our shoulders at the edge of the umbrella, and I was receiving tons of jealousy from all the kids at that. You're a man, Kang Hyuk. Don't be so desperate for a phone number. After walking for a while like that, Yirin left her umbrella and cell phone number with me. 010-99XX 1179. I turned on the cutting-edge cell phone I'd gotten a few days ago and punched in the number Yirin had given me. Ring, ring, ring. She's not picking up? The tone rang for a long time, but I couldn't hear anyone's voice on the other side. Hello. Just then, I heard the dreamlike voice of an angel from the other side of the receiver. Yirin, it's me Hyuk. Hi Hyuk. After telling her my name, Yirin replied brightly, although it seemed that she had just woken up. The weather's good today and all, so do you want to meet up? Oh, are you asking for a date? Gay a date. Her question was directed to me, someone who'd never had a date before in his life, thanks to the Safari Wilderness simulation game. The man Kang Hyuk is sincerely asking Co Yirin for a date. You'll accept, right? I had a good feeling from Yirin's voice. If it's you, Hyuk, then I'll say yes anytime. After a brief silence, I heard her say yes. My heart thumped wildly as it began to race. Oh, Truly, my life had drastically changed the day I met Master Bumdaff. I put aside my bursting happiness and made an appointment with her. Since it's 1 o'clock right now, let's meet on Dihangno at 3. T/N, a famous street in Seoul. Literally means College Street. Dihangno? Okay, I'll see you later. Alright, see you later. Come all prettied up. Haha. For whose benefit? I'm hanging up, okay. Beep, beep, beep. I had no idea what kind of audacity made me say something like come all prettied up to year in. Didat, adat. That's right, a date. I grasped the hung-up phone as my deeply moved feelings quaked within my body. Wait a sec. Now that I look at it, I don't have anything to wear. Gah. For the sake of growing up strong, besides 2 sets of my uniform, I had no newly purchased clothes. My parents were hyenas who had shown regret, despite stripping me of $1,000 for pocket money while leaving for their cruise vacation. The only clothes I had received from such parents after entering high school was my own panther leather-like skin. If the two of them appeared in fairy tales, they would definitely be Nalbu and his wife, who scorned Hungbu. T/N, very famous Korean folktale. Look up Hungbu and Nalbu on Wikipedia if you're interested. Holding back my tears, I squeezed into some jeans that gave me a wedgie because they were too small now, draped on the cotton t-shirt father used as pajamas, and ran outside. As for the jeans, the trendy European shirt, and rest of the goods Marisol had prepared on the day I returned, my father had already packed them away with him. I was on my way to meet the angel CEO year-in. I needed clothes befitting the angel. Today, I would make the angel happy as her knight. Please ring this up. This too, I chose jeans that were the safest option for a student and a long-sleeve summer shirt that matched the season, late summer. Furthermore, I armed myself with completely new items, from socks to shoes and even underwear. See customer, your total so far comes to over $400, but is it all right? I was in the Emperor Mall in Apgujeong, which only the most wealthy Koreans could afford to go to. I went into a store I liked and bought myself clothes. Do I look so poor? Though I knew all too well that our material civilization valued the exterior over the interior, the doubtful look the shop lady was giving me, Kang Hyuk, was regrettable. Please ring me up. I was on the way to meet an angel. I didn't have time to be resentful about the world's heartlessness. Oh my, it's a platinum card. Ho ho. This is my first time seeing it too. Without even any thoughts of ringing me up, the shop lady held up the platinum card I had pushed towards her and made a fuss. This is the rumored platinum card. I heard only billionaires and famous actors use it. The shop ladies who had gathered at the mention of a platinum card looked at the card and me with fascinated eyes. Even though they were ignoring me earlier, I pulled my eyes away from the all-too-transparent women. There were only 30 minutes or so left now. If I got into a taxi, I would get there right on time. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. There's so many people. We had chosen the University Marinier Park as the meeting place of our date. Since it was the weekend, there were as many women who had come out for dates as there were grains of sand in the sea. Oh, this is a wonderful time. Thanks to yesterday's rain, the heat wave in Seoul had died down. Usually drenched in hot humidity, today, for the first time in a while, the city was smiling brightly. Moreover, women were happily walking down the street, holding hands or arm to arm with their boyfriends. What a stunning body. A work of art and art. It wasn't just that there were women. There were a lot of women. They were all ladies several years older than me, and just starting to bloom. Wearing the currently popular short skirts and cool tops, their figures as they walked with their hips swinging slightly made my heart tremble as I watched them. In order to get into Daehan High School, I had never taken proper looks since middle school. I was truly a soul bumpkin. For a person like me, this September Saturday afternoon was like a blessing. It was just like a dream, to the point where I couldn't even remember how long ago the hellish magic training had been. Time helped me recover from the painful times that I had spent with Master Bumdaff. Wow, she's pretty. Maybe she's a celebrity. What killer looks? Hot damn. Celebrity? Who? As I was admiring the pretty women and enjoying my time off, I suddenly heard exclamations from some people behind me. An incredible beauty must have appeared, because the men were drooling as they shouted and the women were making noise. My head also turned. It was enjoyable free eye candy, after all. I would probably regret it if I missed out. Oh, so sexy. My gaze turned right onto her slender legs. Though it wasn't as frivolous as the other women's short miniskirts, she was wearing a denim skirt that was still definitely a miniskirt. Below the skirt were snow-white, milky legs. It was enough to make people marvel. I don't know who her boyfriend is, but he sure caught a big one. Even if her face was just average, that woman was most certainly qualified to receive people's attention. While I was in jealousy and awe, that woman's white Nike sneakers approached me. Hyuk, gay. The beautiful girl wearing a denim miniskirt and a white summer blouse that made her pearly skin shimmer. That girl was my angel, Yirin. Damn it. Then that means everyone has been feasting their eyes on Yirin. Countless males were still dazedly raking their wicked gazes over Yirin. Rage suddenly surged within me. After all, who but Buddha would like a thief that coveted his meal? The weather today is good. If not for you, Hyuk, I would have been taking a nap. Ho, thanks for asking me for a date like this. After looking up once, the angelic Yirin even thanked me for asking for a date. If you're thankful, then shall we start by watching a movie? A movie is good, but you've got to buy me popcorn and a cola too, Kay? Sure, I shall give you the full service, princess. Kohaha, I get to watch a movie with a girl besides my mom for the first time in my 17 years of life. Didn't someone once say that good things happened if you live for a long time? Hush it. While I was lost in my happy imagination, I felt slender fingers wrap around my left hand. Yirin had nonchalantly grasped my hand, just like yesterday when she had grabbed my arm. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Silly. Yirin felt happy as she gazed at the pure Kang Hyuk, who was surprised just because she had grabbed his hand. Guess he doesn't remember me. He wasn't as good-looking as Jang Dong-gun or Jo In-sung. But Kang Hyuk had a refreshing face that automatically made you say that he was manly. With a sturdy physique that matched his height, he was already becoming the hot topic among the first-year girls. T/N, Jang Dong-gun, and Jo In-sung are Korean actors. Their faces give off a manly feel. Cool. They had gotten into the prestigious Daehan High School, but high school was merely a stepping stone for college. Moreover, since everyone was outstandingly skilled, each one was future competition. Because of that, everyone was always tense as they talked amongst each other. Even their laughter was a pretense, and no one had friends they could really open their hearts to. But Kang Hyuk was different. He always had a smile as cool as the blue sky of autumn on his face, as he went about school life with his shoulders straight and proud. Kang Hyuk drew unseen popularity from the mentally drained students. Furthermore, Kang Hyuk was the savior of Yirin's life. In her second year of middle school, she had studied at cram school until late in the night in order to get into Daehan High School. Though she studied until night fell, she was able to go to cram school without worries because she had a driver to take her home. But one day, her driver suddenly got into a car accident and Yirin was forced to go home alone late at night. There wouldn't have been any problem if she had gone by taxi, but she went home on the bus that ran from the cram school. And then, she ran into 3 delinquent high schoolers at the playground at the entrance of her neighborhood. A chilly autumn breeze was blowing, so there were no people walking around late at night. The delinquents dragged Yirin to somewhere dark. She had wanted to scream, but she was so filled with horror that she couldn't say a word. Even now, she couldn't forget the sight of the delinquents who had looked at her lustfully as they dragged her along. That night, when she was sure to have suffered an injury that could never be washed away, a knight like the ones in the movies appeared. Wearing the uniform of the neighboring middle school, the male student was just over 5'6". He met eyes with Yirin as she was dragged along like an animal, and in that moment, the boy jumped forward. There was no warning or anything. He picked up a wooden stick from the street and beat the daylights out of the 3 delinquents, as if he were beating mere animals. Then, leaving the high schoolers who were bigger than him with the honest advice to live their lives properly, he had turned to leave. That was when Yirin saw it. By the dim light of the street lamp, she caught a glimpse of the name tag on the boy's uniform. The name she saw was Kang Hyuk. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. That was fun. Hyuk, what's the next course? We came out after watching a movie called Rotten, Filthy, Shitty Bastard. It had gotten good reviews for being fun on the internet. The movie had been funny throughout and had combined awesome scenes with action to give us a thrilling ride. After relieving our stress and coming out of the movie theater, it was already almost 6 o'clock. Yirin, do you like jazz? Jazz? How did you know that I like jazz? The unique Yirin was clearly different from normal kids. I remember the jazz tunes that had flowed from her MP3 the other day. Let's go. There's a place that does live jazz on Dehangno. Really? Impressive, Hyuk. But Hyuk, are you maybe... What? Having cheered while praising my meticulousness, Yirin's doubtful eyes sparkled. Are you one of those playboys I've only heard about? Playboy. I heard the word playboy on my first date ever. Yirin. Yeah. At my quiet call, The goddess-like girl's large eyes glimmered with playfulness. As the one who compelled me to become a playboy, you're more likely to be one. And I trailed off as I gazed gently at Yirin's black eyes. For you, and only you, I want to become your playboy, always. Tremble. That's right. She should be moved. Ho ho. Words so naughty that they made me want to go into a hardware shop and bang my head on a metal bar came out of my mouth. Hyuk, her eyes trembling as if she had been touched 100 times over. Yirin called me, with trembling lips. Yes, Yirin. On some street corner of Dihangno, as the dusk wrapped the city in shadows, Yirin called my name warmly. And I waited for Yirin's next words. I'm cold. Gay. Has winter come so suddenly? Why is it this cold? Ho ho ho. Hyuk, be careful. You were so corny you almost made me fall over. Ho ho ho. Of course, I'm the idiot for having believed that dating was easier than studying. In middle school, in preparation for the upcoming world of love, I had thoroughly studied a $4 textbook on dating. It was something I always felt, but the truth was theories and reality were really as different as night and day, and the price of an item showed in its effectiveness. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Welcome. Do you have a reservation? Though it was located on Dihangno, a street that targeted young people, the live jazz cafe, Prius, maintained a dignified air. I had found through the internet that it was a place with jazz performances of the highest caliber. I have a reservation under the name Kang Hyuk. Please wait a moment. Ah, here you are. You're in the top VIP room. Please follow me. The cordial waiter guided us to our table. Hyuk, isn't this too much? Yirin's eyes had turned as big as saucers at the words VIP room. I spent all my allowance. It's fine as long as you feed me and keep me alive for the next month, Yirin. Oh, what? Well, you're being cute, so I'll think about it. She was pouting slightly with her cherry red lips. Those lips sure look cute. The strange warmth the sight of her lips gave me made me unable to look away. The VIP room does not take specific orders. In a short while, we will bring the chef's special course meal. Looks like we won't be able to drink even a single glass, though some wine would be perfect. We were clearly still youngsters. The waiter didn't even ask about alcoholic drinks and left with a nod. Looks like there's a quintet here. Saxophone, drum, contrabass, trumpet, piano. I'm really looking forward to it. Yirin was making an expression filled with expectation as she looked at the instruments on the dimly lit stage. She brushed back her long, glossy black hair with her right hand as she made an exceedingly expectant expression. This place specializes in performing standard pieces in the fusion jazz literature. It'll be pleasant to hear. Hyuk, do you have a lot of interest in jazz, too? No, well, a bit. I stuttered a response to Yirin's query. At one point in my life, I hadn't just been interested in it. I had thought about pursuing the path of a musician professionally. Now it was a dream of the past. For a car accident to have suddenly happened. It's no good if we don't have the performance. And at the time when all the customers are in, too, a car accident, we could hear some shocked voices from behind the stage. Hyuk, looks like something happened. Having waited with anticipation for the performers to come onto stage with starry eyes, Yirin made an expression of disappointment. Ard, my perfect first date is... I wondered if this was the shitty feeling a painter might experience if they drew a woman of unequal beauty but were stopped before they could draw the eyes. At this unforeseen situation, my heart fell. Today's main date course, the jazz concert, was about to go down the drain. We can't go back like this. There must have been some news, because the waiters who had been serving the customers were running about in confusion. I was struck with the feeling that they would offer us a refund soon. Wait a moment. You're going somewhere? Yeah, to the bathroom for a bit. All right. She must have really been looking forward to it, because Yirin's pretty face was filled with heavy disappointment. For you, Yirin, no, for the monumental first date of this man, Kang Hyuk. I resolved myself and went towards the person who looked like the manager, to show her that nothing was impossible on the path walked by the man Kang Hyuk. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Hyuk, who went to the bathroom, didn't come back even after a long time. Even though it's my first date with Hyuk, Yirin felt pained. This was the event that her Prince Charming, Hyuk, had prepared for her. The live jazz that she hadn't even thought of had moved her in a way that couldn't be expressed with words. Even her considerate parents couldn't pay attention to Yirin because of work. Moreover, it was her birthday today. Her father managed a small business, and something must have happened because he hadn't come home for the past few days and practically lived in his office. And her mom was busy lamenting her woes to her relatives and friends on the phone. Yirin didn't know the details, but from what she could gather, something bad had definitely happened to her father's business. The date with Kang Hyuk had found her while she was anxiously spending her birthday like that. Seeing Kang Hyuk's pure and vigorous smile, a guy who was so considerate of her, allowed Yirin to brush aside her gloomy mood. The only problem was the live jazz that she had secretly looked forward to had been canceled. Everyone, we apologize for the wait. We will start the performance right away. A sudden announcement rang throughout the store by Mike. Surprised, Yirin looked at the stage. And walking forward to appear on the stage were 5 men and women. Most of them were wearing black attire that allowed free movement. But interestingly, one man was in comfortable jeans and a blue shirt. Hyuk. The short-haired man who came up onto the stage with the performers was indeed Kang Hyuk. Not believing her eyes, Yirin looked at Hyuk again. In that moment, Yirin saw him flash a confident and refreshing smile. We apologize for being a little late. We hope you'll enjoy your night. The mild-looking saxophone player, who looked to be in his early 40s, tilted his head in a brief bow. Clap, clap, clap. With the performer's greeting, the audience naturally applauded, and Kang Hyuk went to sit at the piano. Boom, boom, boom. The contrabass rang softly. Tearing, ti-ring, po, piano and brass sounds. Then the harmony of several instruments began weaving a smooth, jazzy melody. Hyuk, a piece Yirin knew well, called Fly Me to the Moon, began flowing out as jazz. And touched by immeasurable emotion, Yirin's large eyes were wet with tears. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. What a relief. I had never been so grateful for my safari breeding program. I had ended up learning the piano because of my mom's opinion that even a panther struggling on Kilimanjaro needed to be able to play an instrument or two in order to lure in a mate. Thanks to my mom, who had become an applied music professor, despite majoring in the classics, I was capable of performing all sorts of styles, including jazz. Thus, I was able to safely overcome the crisis that had struck our first date. Bada boom boom, bada boom. So this is an ensemble. Because jazz music was pleasant and comfortable to hear, I had often practiced standard jazz at home. Although I had started playing for Yirin, at some point I became immersed in the ensemble of jazz. Jazz, a type of music that was said to be loved by free-spirited people. I closed my eyes and fell deeper into that mellow and harmonious world. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Impressive Hyuk. At 17 years, he was still a young boy. He didn't fall behind, even in the midst of professional players who made a living out of jazz. Rather, the piano had somehow become the center of the jazz, and Kang Hyuk had become the leader. The sight of Hyuk, who was gently swaying with his eyes closed and absorbed in the jazz, made Yirin's heart race on and on. Ever since he saved her from danger, she had truly looked forward to the day she could meet Hyuk, and after coincidentally entering the same school, she had been able to meet him. She had hesitated so much before talking to him at the school field trip, too. He's beautiful. Yirin was vividly experiencing the fact that men could also be beautiful at times. Buoyed by a hazy feeling of intoxication, she had a taste of the illusion that she was flying towards the moon on the melody crafted by Hyuk. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. That's it. That's what it was. Jazz could only be played well if the ensemble was one. In the middle of doing my best to play the piano out of consideration for the other players, an enlightenment suddenly came to me. I had discovered the key that could unlock the third circle that had been my wall. Third circle magic starts from harmoniously combining magic up to the second circle. Just like how 1 + 1 becomes 2 and 2 + 2 becomes 4. If I naturally combine them, I can break the wall in my magic. It's like how more water can be held if the vessel increases in size. From what Master Bumdaff had said, from the third circle onwards, you would receive the title of Mage and be able to go out into the world and make a living out of it. But he had said that most mages in training were unable to overcome the wall and go from the second circle to the third circle for their entire lives. And now, I felt like I would be able to make a living as a mage. Thank you, Yirin. Yirin, who stood with me on the starting point of a new life. There is no doubt that she was the goddess of good fortune who watched over me.